niggas have motion except for me. There has to be one real nigga left in America, in this damn country.
See, this is what I'm talking about. It's just sort of like this, like, don't you think that's problematic? Like, don't you think women like me are doing? It's like, you know, listen, we don't have time for political correctness. We don't have time
It's not about
to
being politically correct. And they make it personal too. They're not saying you've got to shit.
There's so many women you don't realize who really, really wants the best for
some of your
men.
views, again, you might alienate a lot of people who would otherwise.
And I simply don't understand this. Oh, you know, let's sort of push women to maybe the corner in something. Is that not problematic? I do know many of your views on women, which I find abhorrent. I'm going to be honest. I have to question what kind of a person who's had no experience with women is in a position to you know.
girls are here to be sexy for me. Throw it back on a nigga. And that's why you're gonna drop that ass for a nigga, because you were put here to drop that ass for a nigga.
Oh, darling, I'll see you there. See you there. Where the music plays and love fills the air. Fills the air. By the old street lights, we'll dance through the pain. Let the tears fall soft like a midnight rain. Yeah. Oh, darling, I'll see you there. Where the music plays and love fills the air. By the old street light, we'll dance through the pain. Let the tears fall soft like a midnight rain. Oh, darling, I'll see you there. Where the music plays and love fills the air. By the old street light, we'll dance through the pain. Let the tears fall soft like a midnight rain.
Men are being pushed to the right lane, y'all. It's a phenomenon that everybody's talking about. Why are young men so right wing? I have some theories. I have one theory in particular. You know why I think men, at least you know why I think black men are examining, exploring, flirting with the right wing? You know why young men are turning right wing?
These angry, mad, opportunistic, lying black women.
I mean, what do you think the solution is when all of the women want to destroy everything that you love? When the women have decided they would rather have freedom than family, when they can just vote your money out of your pocket without even pretending to love you. See, once upon a time, they had to at least be nice to guys. Now they can just get right to money. And it's all politically backed. It's all political. The personal is political.
Good women are dead. Evil bitches, rise up!
Evil bitches have risen up. They've been risen for like 75, 100 odd years by now, though. The evil bitches is on the rise. Now everybody got to suffer because of the evil bitches rising up.
I'm done. I'm done with life. And it's all Jermaine's fault. It's always Jermaine's fault.
Jermaine is a right-wing Republican now. Jermaine has brunch with racist men from around the nation now. Jermaine has a network full of alt-right contacts right now. Everybody's done. Everybody's side of this shit. Shout out to Dolomite kicking the game off with a few dollars in the hat to start the show right. Thank you so much. You guys hit that like button as you make your way in. We got a little bit to discuss here. Got one long theme, but we got to walk our way through this shit, man. So like the video for me.
Come on, share your dollar. Give me your dollar. Share your dollar with me. Come on.
And then True Hype, you are absolutely right. $5 is $5, you know. I could use another $5, so you know, hopefully somebody cough another $5 up for me. Thank you so much for that, True Hype.
Give me the money. Give me the money for all that I would do. Give me the money.
So we have to talk about a tide turning in young men. Where to start? You know what? Let's start at the video I don't like as much. Let's start at the bottom. Let's build up to this because I don't really like Scott Galloway, but he has been talking about this issue. So, you know, we'll start in with him.
Man's got to have a code. A man has got to have a code. A line attributed to John Wayne. I'm Michael Smerconish in the Philly Burbs. Omar Little, the magnetic criminal in The Wire. He said the same thing. But where does that code come from? You're not born with a code. You have to learn it from mentors, from life experience.
Fathers. That would be the first place to learn a code. The fact that you didn't go there first makes me hate television. This is why I don't watch TV. I get all of my media on demand. I just wait for my favorite TV shows to stack up and I binge watch them so I can avoid this type of shit. I only watch you niggas for research and monetary purposes. This is like a job now.
Young men today, where is their code coming from? From social media, from video games, from porn, from a home without a father? Because people seem to agree young men are in crisis, and the data bear this out. Girls graduate on time from high school at higher rates than boys. Women easily outnumber men in college enrollment.
All that is true, but I think nobody likes to acknowledge how much the school system has changed over the years so that women can actually thrive. And nobody ever cared about what makes boys thrive. It was about helping the girls along the way.
In the spring of 2025, 58% of all undergraduate students in the US were women. Boys have significantly more behavioral and developmental issues than do the girls. Teenage boys, they have fewer close friends than teenage girls. Only 15% of young men say they have no friends at all. 15% say they have no friends at all. That's quintupled since 1990. Male suicides, they've risen faster than female suicides in recent decades. And at present, men commit suicide at more than 4 times the rate of women.
It's almost like our culture cannibalizes the young men in particular. Like, there's negatives, there are downsides for young women, definitely. This is why I've learned to have empathy for the girls, because they be struggling and crazy and shit. But the culture kind of cannibalizes a decent chunk of the men, young, middle-aged, and on the older side. You know, there's a lot of old guys who wind up homeless, and they almost don't even know what happened to them. Shit just hit them.
Participation in the labor force, it's been going down for decades, while women's participation has steadily risen. 1 in 10 men, 20 to 24, 1 in 10 aren't in school, don't have a job, effectively unengaged. That's twice the rate from 1990. And that's just a sample of the data. There's a lot more data and statistics showing a downward arc for boys and for men, and all the while society celebrating young women doing better, but young men are more likely to get lectures on toxic masculinity.
That is actually one of the things I hate most about, like, just the modern wave. Everybody talks down to men, and then they celebrate everything women do. OnlyFans is great. They don't even, they cleaned up prostitution now. It's sex work, because we're sex positive now, right? No slut shaming. It's bad if you have a bunch of baby mamas, but we're not allowed to slut shame. All the things. I think I heard Patrice O'Neal say it best. He was like, what I don't like, what I hate is living in a world where everything a woman is great and awesome, but everything that a man is supposed to be is like evil and bad, and everybody criticizes it the whole way around. Like, that's what it's like for young boys right now. And speaking of young boys, shout out to Jesse Lee with the $3. Keep up the good work. Shout out to my young boy.
Give me the money. Give me the money for I will do. Give me the money.
Give that boy some money, all right? Otherwise, he's gonna have to shoot. You don't understand. These youth they got their back against the wall. They feeling oppressed. They feeling unloved. Give him money.
Think of it this way: women suffer by extension when so many men are off track. We owe it to the women to help the men.
We owe it to the fuck this nigga just say?
Are off track. We owe it to the women to help the men.
You see what I mean? You see what I mean? We owe it to the women to help the men. Because the women deserve better men. You understand that? Because the women, they have earned better men. They require, they goddamn it, they demand better men. And we owe it to them to provide better men. Not for the sake of the men, because who gives a shit about what they want, what they need? We owe it to the women. You understand? We owe the women better men. As a country, George Washington crossed the Delaware River because he owed it to the women. You understand how that worked?
And all the data may be having an effect that's all too evident and gruesome from the local and recent news. For instance, look at this. Thomas Matthew Crooks, who shot President Trump at that Butler, Pennsylvania rally, was 20 years old at the time. Luigi Mangione, 26 years old when he allegedly killed the United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. Robin Westman, the shooter who killed 2 and injured 21 at the Annunciation Catholic Church before committing suicide.
I understand why you would even attempt to thread these guys into this conversation, but these guys need not be included. This is a very social conversation. You're trying to make a somewhat political point here. And I see what you're doing, Baldy. I see what you're doing. I can't stop you, but I don't like it.
He was 23 at the time. And Tyler Robinson, suspected of shooting Charlie Kirk, suspected in that assassination, is 22 years old. Every news cycle, there's more evidence that something is going wrong, which is why today we're doing a special program. This hour, we'll go in depth into the crisis facing young men. And you should know, we planned to do this program before the Charlie Kirk assassination. But in some ways, it was inevitable, not that particular crime, but that some.
See, he don't want to make it look like he all of a sudden care. Like, no. I've been caring about young men, because I'm a man. I used to be young. Like, I always cared. Those my niggas. He don't want to make it look all suspicious and shit, Really, really odd timing.
Something would happen between the planning and the airing of this program. And if anything, the death of Charlie Kirk, a young man himself whose life before it ended perhaps pointed toward a solution, makes the issue more urgent than ever. So, in the following hour, we'll have three guests, a powerhouse team of experts looking at the issue from three different angles. Richard Reeves, the founder of the American Institute for Boys and Men, he wrote the book Of Boys and Men, which investigates why the modern male is struggling. He co-wrote a recent piece in the New York Times comparing today's problems to the boy problem of 1900. Rahm Emanuel, former White House chief of staff, mayor of Chicago, ambassador to Japan, will be here to discuss the housing crisis and how markets and Raging Moderates podcasts, on top of which he's the author of the upcoming book, Notes on Being a Man, where he presents a path forward for men and parents of boys. The book comes out in November. Scott.
Now, everybody is attempting to address this issue with men. I'm giving a path forward for men. What I realized, though, the cumulative effect of their attempt is to talk men off the right-wing ledge, right? Because a lot of guys are walking up to the right-wing ledge and they're looking around, and it's peaceful. It's nice up there, You kind of get to be one with the universe when you get up there on that right-wing ledge. And then a lot of guys jump. And they find out they can fly at that point, right? And so they don't want the men to realize that they have wings. They don't want the men to leave. So they want the men to be stuck down on the left-wing social order, the post-war liberal consensus, right? And so that's kind of the thing. They don't want guys to jump off the right wing and then float off into the universe. Shout out to El Grande with the $4.99. Everybody must eat, even you, David. Salute. That's goddamn right. Everybody must eat. We all need a meal every now and then.
Everybody must eat. Everybody must eat. Everybody must eat. Everybody must eat.
And then shout out to Good Counsel with the $4.99. Supporting boss level hood conservative. Thank you so much. Thank all of y'all for coming through today.
Hoes mad. Hoes mad. Hoes mad. Hoes mad. Hoes mad. Hoes mad.
This is about targeting women of color in the United States of America. Don't tell me, because I didn't get a single apology.
Time has expired.
My life was threatened. Thank you.
Hoes mad. Hoes mad. Hoes mad. Hoes mad. Hoes mad. Hoes mad. Hoes mad.
Let me read this real quick. Dell in the chat says, the best thing to do is create a program that helps men to be independent, learn skills, and exercise. And then I assume you don't mean jail, because you can do that in jail. But then you follow that up with, we should do the same for women. And you see, you mixed in the good with the awful. Like, you could have stopped at the first part. You had to add that we should do the same for women. That's literally how we got in this mess, bro. Putting the women and the men on an equal playing field, that's kind of how we got here. So let's drop the second half, and we're gonna figure out how to really crystallize the first half, because you was cooking on the first half. That shit was dope.
I'm not going to give away the new book, but I need to read something from the introduction. You say, I teach a course called Brand Strategy, not the issues facing boys and men. I'm not an athlete, a politician, an ex-SEAL, or an evangelist. I have no training in the subject of boys and men, either as an academic or therapist. I haven't devoted my life to being a good man, a good citizen. When I was younger, my sole focus was on becoming wealthy. Being rich makes you rich. But having spent the past 6 decades in a male body while watching a parade of fake men selling distorted versions of what it means to be a man, I have some thoughts. Why do you care so much about this issue?
Yes, Scott. What happened? Why you care?
Well, first off, Mike, I just want to recognize that you have been on this issue more than any person on television, so I appreciate it. June 11th, 2020, Alex Kearns is trading options on Robinhood and errantly gets a mistaken email saying that he owes $730,000. And after furiously trying to contact the company and getting a series of automated emails back, he leaves a note saying he didn't want to burden his family with that debt and throws himself in front of a train. And that was, I went sort of down a rabbit hole on that. And some of the data you brought up was just so overwhelming. And it's really a larger metaphor for what is happening, or the relationship between big tech and our youth. And that is, we now have essentially 40% of the S&P are the most powerful companies in the world. 40% of the S&P by market.
Bro, that's a lot of money. I ain't gonna lie. That's like $750,000 right there. That's lifetimes of money for a lot of people. But you didn't wait long enough, bro. God damn. You didn't wait long enough. I mean, Jesus Christ. I'm not gonna hang it up on like day 3 of poverty. Like I can owe $80 billion, bro. I'm not gonna quit in the first week. All right. I might have a shot. All right. I might go to casino next week. You never know. Damn, son. Don't hang it up, bro.
Value is essentially companies that have figured out that what we thought in marketing that sex sells is second to something else, and that is rage. And they've essentially built the largest rage machines in history. And what we have is a series of young men who are extremely online, who have a lack of relationships and are up against this godlike technology with the deepest pocketed companies in the world, trying to convince them that they don't need friends. They have Robinhood and Discord. They don't need to get a job, right?
What online influencer is telling you you don't need friends or a job? Who is this guy?
They can trade crypto. And why would they go through the effort of trying to work out, have a plan, demonstrate kindness, demonstrate excellence, demonstrate resilience, to establish a romantic relationship when they have porn? So in some way,
I don't think there's any man in the online space convincing you to go watch some porn. And I'm not even like anti-porn. I do think they're absolutely right about everything they say about porn. So if they banned it, I would just accept it, right? But I don't think anybody on the right or anybody in these online spaces is like, yo, just go fap it out, bro. Who the fuck is saying that shit?
Michael, I feel like Alex Kearns' death is a larger metaphor for what I believe our society at the hands of shareholder.
They literally had like No Fat November a year ago. Was it like last year, 2 years ago? I remember that shit. It was No Fat November. Matter of fact, it might come back around again. November is not that far away.
Driven big tech that we're planning our own extinction. 60% of people age 30 used to have a kid in the house, one child 40 years ago. Now it's 27%. We're not having sex. The number of young people 18 to 29 who haven't had sex in the last year, it used to be 1 in 8. Now it's 1 in 4.
Damn, bro. I feel like I got in the game in the last quarter. I got in the game right before everybody stopped fucking. That's crazy. Oh, man. Woo. Thanks, coach. Shout out to my coach. Pops put me in the game right before shit got crazy. Thank you. Got some free throws, some layups. Dunked on a couple of bitches. God damn, bro. This shit rough out here for the youngins, man.
And any mammal that is put alone, you put an orca in a tank alone, it goes crazy. The worst thing you can do to a human is solitary confinement. You know, if you have dogs, you know the worst thing you can do is leave them alone. And we have a profit incentive to drive rage and convince young people that it's okay to be alone. And it takes an especially big toll on men. When women don't have the guardrails of a romantic relationship, they oftentimes pour that additional romantic energy into their friendships and into their professional lives. When men don't have it, they pour it into going extremely online, into conspiracy theory, into misogyny, and can oftentimes be radicalized. There's a cartoon.
You see, all of this is so they don't make the hoes mad. You don't understand what guys are up against. Like, there is a multinational global monstrosity conglomerate that is aimed at one point and one point alone. Men shall not make the hoes mad.
Hoes mad, hoes mad, hoes mad, hoes mad, hoes mad, hoes mad.
This is about targeting women of color in the United States of America. Don't tell me because I didn't get a single apology when my life was threatened. Thank you.
Hoes mad, hoes mad, hoes mad, hoes mad, hoes mad, hoes mad, hoes mad.
And it is a cartoon of the poor woman in her 30s that hasn't been able to find a man. It's a myth. Men need relationships more than women. Widows are happier after their husband dies than when they were married. Widowers are less happy. Men live 4 to 7 years longer when they're in a relationship, women 2 to 4 years longer.
Here's the kicker, though, Scott. When you say need relationships, I think it's quite the opposite. I think women need relationships a little bit more, maybe a lot more than men do. It's also been well known, men can do isolation. Men, and not even like imposed isolation, like in jail or some shit. Like, this is a very male phenomenon, is to just go out into the woods and just do shit. Come back when you feel like it. Some guys never come back at all. They're just living there off the land, howling at the moon and shit, writing books about how fucked up the government is. Like, this is a very, very male thing to do. So I don't think it's men that need relationships as much as women. But here's the kicker. Men want relationships more than women. And I think that is kind of where the disconnect is right now. It's like there are a lot more men that want to be with a lot more women versus the opposite, right? There's not as many women that want to be with as many men.
It ends up that men need relationships much more than women. And the most powerful companies in the world are essentially trying to convince us that we can have a reasonable facsimile of life on a screen and with an algorithm. And it is enraging us and dividing us.
There's a biological aspect to this that you've noted in the past, and I know we'll note in the forthcoming book about brain development. Make that point.
So 2 seniors in high school applying to college, and I'm going through this right now with my oldest. Essentially, the girl who's applying to college.
Right. An algorithm never keyed your car. An algorithm never took me to court, bro. I don't owe money to an algorithm. You feel me? Algorithms haven't done anything to me.
College, a senior is competing against a sophomore. The prefrontal cortex of a male is 18 months behind. It doesn't catch up until he's 25. He's also much more risk aggressive. He's also more likely to pursue DOPA. He's just biologically at a disadvantage. And then you couple that with an educational complex that is biased against men. Boys are twice as likely to be suspended for the same behavior. Black boys 5 times as likely. 3/4 of people in K through 12 are women. Who are they more likely to champion? 7 of 10 high school valedictorians are girls. So your next guest, who has really been my inspiration, my role model around this, has some fantastic ideas around redshirting. But the reality is some of that risk aggressiveness that has served our country well, whether it's scaling beams to build the Empire State Building in 12 months, or quite frankly, some of that masculine energy you want when Russians pour over the border in Ukraine, some of that heroism and valiance and risk aggressiveness.
Bro, we ain't have shit to do with that. Why are you trying to mind fuck me, Scott? Nobody in America had anything to do with anybody in the Ukraine thing. Those was Europeans. That was some old shit. They always do that over there. He just tried to mind fuck all of us.
Entrepreneurship we want from our young men. Quite frankly, it's been turned into something very toxic online. But men are biologically, quite frankly, just less advanced. Let me give you a scary stat. 2 15-year-olds a boy and a girl, both sexually molested, one crime is no less heinous than the other, the boy is 10 times more likely to kill himself later in life. It ends up that while boys are physically stronger, they're emotionally and mentally much weaker than girls.
I want to say this, and I don't know that it'll matter that I say it or how many times I say it. We shouldn't be misunderstood. We are all for the success of women. I was raised
100%.
by and am married to a strong and successful woman. And am married to a strong and successful woman. You say in the book.
Damn, yeah, I thought he was about to say married to. I was raised by and married to a strong black woman. Because they always got to put some glaze on it. Every time they talk about men at all, they got to glaze the women just a little bit so the women don't feel like you jumped off the team and you're over there with the men now.
Look, there's no such thing as toxic masculinity. That's the emperor of all oxymorons. What do you mean by that?
Where there's cruelty, there's abuse of power, there's violence, but we need to restore masculinity as a potential code that you were referencing in your opening. And everybody needs a code. Some people get it from religion, some people get it from their family, you can get it from work, you can get it from the military. I'd like to think that masculinity can serve as a code for young men who are struggling to find some guidelines, some guardrails. And for me, masculinity is really three legs of a stool. One, being a provider. Men are disproportionately, unfairly evaluated based on their economic success, and they get a lot of their purpose and their self-worth from their economic success. I know you do, I do. And the reality is that 75% of women say that economic viability is important in a mate. It's only 25% of men. Men don't really care if a woman is economically viable in kind of the mating game.
Right. So that means if you create a culture based around making women equal to or at times superior to the men, it actually does leave the women unhappy and unsatisfied at the end of it. Because like the dude said in the beginning, you know, the women deserve good men, right? Well, they're not going to get good men if the women are just propped up to be better than the men already. Their conception of good men is going to be fucked up now. They have no use for these guys when you start them out on second base, right? So you might want to think about that.
Protector. Think about the most masculine jobs, being the military, being a fireman, being a cop. At the end of the day, the whole point of
Did I lose Scott? Because I'm not hearing the feed. He's gone. Okay. Okay. We lost Scott. Let me just say this. Something you don't know. His book comes out in November.
You know what? Fuck your book, Scott. There, I said it. Fuck your goddamn book.
Analysis of the problems facing young men. My next guest, Richard Reeves, founder of the American Institute for Boys and Men, the author of Boys and Men, Why the Modern Male is Struggling, Why It Matters, and What to Do About It. He's highlighted how younger generation American males are feeling increasingly hopeless. He's recently written with Robert Putnam of Bowling Alone fame in the New York Times, Boy Crisis of 2025, Meet the Boy Problem of the 1900s. Richard, welcome back. We had a boy crisis in the early 20th century. How did we solve that?
Thanks for having me. Thank you for the show, Michael. Well, we responded with these civic institutions that you've just been talking to Mayor Emanuel and others about, which is Big Brothers, Big Sisters, Boy Scouts, etc. I loved what you've been.
You did that, though. You did. Big Brothers, Big Sister, you did that, right? And then in like 1919, you sent them all off to die. It's funny how you solved the problem after you solved the problem. I want to talk about that, though. goddamn shame what happened to them boys.
Been talking about this morning about the fact that we need men to help boys to become men, and that doesn't happen accidentally. And so in the early 19th century, that's when actually Boy Scouts, Big Brothers, boys clubs were all created in response to what was seen as a crisis of boys in our cities. And we need a similar civic response to.
Okay, 1914. I guess 1919 was closer to the end. Correction noted.
Day. Like, it's really striking to me that these institutions, YMCA, Big Brothers, they are desperate for more male volunteers because they have huge waiting lists for the boys. So we have in our country thousands, if not millions, of boys looking for mentors, looking for role models, and we don't have enough for them. And so this is a call to men, similar to the one we had 100 years ago, which is, we need you. Our young men and our boys need you. And maybe we need each other.
You say that today danger, I'm paraphrasing, but I'll get it straight. Today danger lurks more from an algorithm than an alleyway.
Yeah, that's right. So it's a different kind of protection that we need.
Here we go with this algorithm shit. Algorithms are not harming you. The algorithm can't even touch you.
Now it's we need different skills. Like, anybody who thinks that it isn't a different world in 2025 to what it was 100 years ago hasn't been paying attention. So yeah, different skills for sure. And we're losing too many of our boys and young men now to those algorithms, which you talked to Scott about earlier.
And by the way, let me stop real quick. Shout out to True Hype with the $10 super chat. Tom Dillon spoke to this not too long ago, but he wasn't blaming the right as he spoke directly to the corporate interests that make money off of humanity, not being social or developing community. And this is another thing too, right? There are major corporate interests, like Palantir level, BlackRock level corporate interests that probably want a loveless, genderless population that just goes to work and consumes product. If we just make product and consume product and the numbers on the graph go up, that's all they really want. But you see, guys, we like, family and legacy and footballs on Sundays and shit like that. And so guys will disrupt the futuretopia that they have planned. And then girls like the idea of the futuretopia. So, that makes the hoes mad.
Hoes mad, hoes mad, hoes mad, hoes mad, hoes mad, hoes mad.
This is about targeting women of color in the United States of America. Don't tell me, because I didn't get a single apology when my life was threatened. Thank you.
Hoes mad, hoes mad, hoes mad, hoes mad, hoes mad, hoes mad, hoes mad.
And True Hype again with the $2. I actually opened up that clip. I got the Tim Dillon show queued up. I'm gonna run that in a minute. But shout out to you for the $2 super chat.
To the internet, etc. And so it's more of a digital world that we're losing our boys and young men to now than perhaps the real world, but no less dangerous for that, Michael. It's also very isolating, can be radicalizing. And so sure, the dangers are different, but the need for men to help boys is as great as ever.
I've tried to make today's program really devoid of the politics because I think this goes above and beyond the political conversation. But I want to point something out that you highlighted, which is that the Democratic National Committee listed every possible group in the world, but they didn't list men. But more recently, Gavin Newsom. In fact, I was just reading a story supplied to me by a friend engaged in a mentoring program. Gretchen Whitmer seems to get it. Wes Moore climbing on board. You've written about those three and others. Speak to that issue.
A year ago, I was saying that the Democrats were deafeningly silent on this issue of boys and men. And at worst, those on the left generally basically couldn't get their head around the fact that boys and men might have problems because they were committed to the idea that boys and men were the problem. But in the last few months, the last year or so,
everything has been so against men and boys in general. It's almost going to break people's minds if the government actually does start to change things. Like, there's a law that happened in Kentucky a few years back. I've been wanting to talk about. So in Kentucky, they went to automatic 50-50 custody right out the gate. Married, baby mama, whatever, 50-50. Divorce rates went down by like 25%. And so they kind of like starting to stabilize at least that little corner of interaction right there. And it's a great thing. And you know, there's always, you know, the complaints and the critics, but I think that is the way we have to start moving. And it was never romantic. Only men do romance. Remember that. This is about power.
So really, I think that has changed very significantly. You've mentioned some of the governors, and there are executive orders being signed by these governors, real progress. Just this week, we've seen a call to service from Governor Newsom in California, Governor Moore in Maryland. Governor Newsom in California, along with Josh Friday, his service head, has said, 10,000 men, come. We need you. That is not something that was happening 2 years ago. And so I do think that this issue is becoming more mainstream. Thank God for that, but we are just at the beginning. And in the meantime, the crisis continues to grow.
Relative to relationships and marriage, Richard Reeves, you've also said that the women who least need a man are still the ones marrying one. What does that mean?
What it means is that actually college-educated women and men are actually still marrying at pretty high rates. The marriage crisis is not among the woman that went to a selective college. The marriage crisis is among men and women with less economic power, the ones with, as Scott says, with less economic viability.
Now, this is key here, because by the numbers, he's talking about Black America in a lot of ways. And I've been noticing this as well, too. Years and years ago, I think SKC and I had a conversation, feminism as gender war, as class war, feminism as a class war. Because what I noticed, what I started to point out was that the upper classes are doing relatively well. It's not that they're not getting divorced. Their numbers are up, but it's not as pronounced as when you get to the bottom. And then when you get to the bottom, not only is it like divorce is up, but marriage is down in general, because there's less impulse to marry when you're a woman and you have the government that's basically the wind beneath your wings, right? So there's way less need for a man. And more critically, there's way less desire to cooperate in the long haul. And so this thing is actually wreaking havoc among the lower classes right here.
The crisis is really in lower income and working class communities. And what we do find is that when men are doing better in those communities, the marriage rates are higher. And so whatever your politics, if you think that it is better for men to be more viable, for women to be more viable, for kids to have parents in their lives, then you have got to focus on the challenges of men, and especially men who right now are struggling the most economically.
Okay, let's offer something tangible to an audience member who's been watching for the last 47 minutes and says, you've convinced me. We have a crisis among our men. What can I do? I want to help fix this.
I'm going to give a policy response first, which is we do need more men in our schools. My own son is a 5th grade teacher in Baltimore City. God bless him. The 10 percentage point.
Bro, teaching them Black kids? That's terrible. He might get stabbed.
Drop in the share of men in our classrooms is something that we should all be doing something about. But on a personal level, I'm just telling you, like, if you're a man, especially listening to this, there is a boy or a young man in your life who needs you more than you know. Call them now, text them now, ask them, how you doing? And then ask them again.
You know what? I know a guy just like that. He's called my fucking son. Talked to him earlier. He's all right. He's doing fine. Thanks for asking.
Are you really doing? Do not underestimate how important you are to the well-being of the boys and men in your life. We need you. We need all of us. It takes a village to raise a child, and especially a boy into a man, but some of those villages have to be men. And so don't underestimate how important it is. So get your phone out, don't scroll on it. Think about that boy or young man. It could be a cousin, it could be a nephew, it could be a friend, it could be there is a young man or a boy in your life right now who needs you. And this is going to take all of us to solve this crisis, not just government, not just policy, but each and every one of us. So if we all do our bit, then we can help save a generation of young men. And the time is now.
Richard Reeves, that was beautifully said. Thank you so much. Checking in now on more social media reaction. Follow me on X. Subscribe.
Notice it's almost like all hope and stuff. You know, just hug a guy. Just call a boy you know and say, hey, boy, you're all right, fella. It's all like emotional advice that you give to women when they're having a bad day.
To my YouTube channel, where, by the way, I'm offering much more of this type of thematic program. I'm fortunate to work with a number of young men, mostly Black and Hispanic. They have to work. I see none of the loneliness. Maybe not having a safety net forces these kids to get out of the basement. Between work and school, they don't have time to fall down rabbit holes. Lynn, I think that makes sense. I mean, what's the expression? The idle hands are the devil's workshop. I agree with you. You still have time to vote on today's poll question by going to smerconish.com. And here's the way we worded it.
Yeah, I think I spoke to this a while ago. I don't give a lot of credence to that whole male loneliness crisis thing. I mean, there are always going to be like lonely guys who just can't make it in life, guys who can't score with women in life and all that shit. But I don't know if it's quite the loneliness crisis. It's just, one, that's just the way it is for a certain chunk of guys. And then two, guys have hobbies. Guys, and I think this is maybe a lot truer than it is for women and girls. Guys have a rich internal life, so guys will pour themselves into things. Once upon a time, men built cathedrals and shit like that, like painted paintings and sculptures and whatnot. So like a lot of guys will find things to do with themselves. Not everybody's just gonna fade away and fizzle out. Let me see. Let's go over here.
New polling from NBC News reveals a gender divide among Gen Z that reaches beyond politics. Young men and young women far apart on Trump and just about every other cultural issue going into the midterms. Take a look at how they rank the importance of marriage and having children, for example, to their personal idea of success. Men who voted for Trump ranked both in their top 5.
Now, take note. This is what's really coming down into the political realm, and it's almost like the red pill manosphere conversation is becoming mainstream. Like the gender war is effectively mainstream and political at this point. And what you can see in the numbers is that right wing, red pill, maybe men are the men who overwhelmingly, more than women, these men want families. These men want relationships. These men want money. These men want legacy, right? And you see it's on the women's side, they almost want, it's like they have an opposite dream. It's like they have a Bizarro Land vision. It's like you got Superman and then you got Bizarro. And the women are like on some Bizarro Land shit.
Well, if you read all the way to the bottom, you'll see women who voted for Harris rank both having children and getting married next to last. Joining us now, Democratic strategist and pollster, as well as all the way to the bottom, you'll see voted children issue going into the midterms. Take a look at how they rank the importance of marriage and having children, for example, to their personal idea of success. Men who voted for Trump ranked both in their top 5. While if you read all the way to the bottom, you'll see women who voted for Harris rank both having children and getting married next to last. Joining us now, Democratic strategist and pollster, as well as MSNBC legal analyst Cornell Belcher. Tim Miller, also back with us as well. Cornell, what do you make of that instance or that specific number, that men see marriage and children as helping them have a successful life, and women who voted for Harris see having kids and getting married as not that important, the least important things for them to have a successful life? Explain that.
I think the key part of this is men who voted for Trump, right? I think there's less a divide with men who voted for Harris, right? But men who voted for Trump, it is a divide that we're seeing across the country where we have
men who voted for Trump would be the majority of men, though. That is kind of the invisible glue into that thing you just said there, right? Men who voted for Trump are the majority of the men in the country.
Have women who, I know this is crazy, right? Don't want Roe v. Wade overturned, want a workplace equality, and don't want us to roll back, programs and projects that have helped women as well as people of color.
Yeah, there are a lot of simps, and there are a lot of racial simps out there too. And we're dealing with both in turn. All right, there's the simping for women argument, and then there's the simping for your melanin argument. And we will eradicate all simping. All right, it's pimp or die from now on.
Get ahead or find equity in the workplace versus what Trump was offering America, right? I know we tell Americans that the election was about the price of eggs, and I think it's the biggest bamboozling we've ever done in this country, when the truth of the matter is Donald Trump was selling a vision of America that was backwards, that was saying we got to go back to these traditional ways that were 1950-ish sort of idealism about men and women and the world, while Harris was saying, no, we've got to move forward. And so certainly,
but I guess my question is why is having a family, getting married and having a family now so political that if you want to have a family and you want to have more kids, you're seen as more conservative, I guess, and then.
Yes, because you bitches have gone so fucking far off the rails that you are driving men crazy. I'm gonna pull up this video in a minute. There's a whole nother clip we're gonna play, but women have brought so much chaos and hurt and anger and desperation into the country that the men are literally turning to God. Yeah, you understand how fucked up you have to be to make somebody turn to God? Like, I've tried every other worldly solution, all right? I've tried money. I've tried talking. I've tried love. I've tried violence. I even tried to get your sister to say something. I tried all the things, right? Everything. I gotta go to God now. God help me deal with these bitches, all right? Because I'm gonna hurt one. Like, this is where young men are at right now. I'm just gonna go put it in God's hands because these bitches can't be saved, all right? We're gonna have to let Jesus handle it, all right? Jesus, take the wheel, goddammit.
Get it again. Okay, I'm gonna say it again. I come in the name of Jesus. Repeat it after me, bitch. I come in the name of Jesus by the power of the Holy Spirit.
Than liberal, or you're seen as a Trump voter rather than a Harris voter. The politicization.
I don't know if you're seeing as a Trump voter, but certainly if you're from this data, especially among young voters, young men who voted for Trump put having a family in those more traditional, the so-called more traditional roles as a higher premium, and from certainly women, especially younger women who aren't in that Trump camp, don't see that as their vehicle for happiness. They see so.
Yo, honey, Uncut, you niggas scheduling a show? Are you niggas actually putting the show together? Because I'm gonna wrap this up. I was gonna take a nap anyway. I'll set my alarm and make sure if y'all actually got something going, like we gonna put a show together or not.
The idea of them pursuing their careers and pursuing other activities, not to say that family isn't important, but they certainly rank other things like their career and having the ability to do things that they want ahead of having a family. And that's not putting a value judgment saying that they don't value family, but they.
Yo, what is 6 p.m. East on the East Coast for that? What is that, like 11 o'clock? What time do you plan on starting on the East Coast, bro? I don't know time. I don't know sun math. I'm bad at the sun math, bro. What time is that in my house? I'm over here on the East Coast. Not 9 p.m. Okay.
Certainly don't put it in the same sort of top ranking as position as a male Trump voter does.
It is fascinating, Tim, the divide.
Yeah, I mean, I find the whole poll kind of alarming. I mean, on the male side, the male Trump voters, the last thing that they care about last is having emotional stability. I think that kind of says it all. That's concerning in a certain way.
Yeah.
But on the women's side of the ledger, the young women, I don't know. I find this pretty concerning. And obviously, having a family is not the end all be all. It's not for everybody. You can have a fulfilling life without a family.
Yeah, fuck you. I was gonna get all philosophical and talk about the powerful urge to reproduce and the drive to actually produce after said reproduction. Like, it makes you want to do more. It makes you want to have more because you love this little guy now, and this little guy needs more. Your baby loves you and she wants things. You know, it makes you more. I was going to get into all that, but fuck that guy.
But prioritizing it last in a definition of success for your life, prioritizing behind owning a home, it's just kind of like, I don't, you know, there are a lot of people in big empty homes that have unfulfilling lives. And I think that having stability and having finances is important at all. But I think if we have this culture where, you know, the most important thing you have to care about if you're a 23-year-old living in a big city is like saving enough money to be able to own.
23-year-olds need to be starting families. That is actually optimal in terms of like maturity and life projection and development. Like, you're right on the cusp of your full brain development, right? Because after your brain fully develops, it's harder to fall in love. You understand why love is so powerful when you're young? It's because your brain is still retarded. And you need to be retarded. You both, as men and women, in order to love each other strongly, you both need to be a little retarded. And that's why you have to fall in love before you're like 30. You got to lock in. Like 25 is kind of the wall, really. But you kind of have to do that shit when you 23 is great, bro. I'm trying to tell you. 23 years old, get married, knock her up, get a better job, start looking for a house. That's the way, man.
A home, I think that is leading people potentially to a bad place. And I do think it says something unhealthy, maybe about the culture on the left, that having a family and having kids is so deprioritized. Again, it doesn't have to be everything. I'm not saying you should be a trad wife, but last, I don't know. I think that has some concerning elements for me.
Well, let me rejoin on that, right? So again, it's not to say that they don't value it, but if you look at the enormous economic angst that these young people are under, and let's face it, they are looking at an America where they probably won't do as well as past generations of Americans do, and who
every
are
24-year-old has economic angst, though, Cornell.
Oh no, bullshit. Compared to like buying a house in the 1950s, 60s, even the 70s, man. It all kind of fell off a cliff after the 70s, but no, it's not like the boomer childhood, you know? It's not like growing up post-war. There's a whole we are post-war right now. There's a whole other vibe. But shout out to Trey with the 5-ball. Is this the left's answer to the red pill? They don't have an answer to the red pill. They have Destiny. They have like Hassan Piker, but they don't have a proper answer to the red pill. They're going to keep trying, and that's why we keep covering this. One day they're going to find something to latch onto. Remember that one fat girl that they said was going to talk to all the boys? Yeah, that shit was fucking hilarious.
Give me the money. Give me the money for all that I would do. Give me the money.
Shout out to Trey.
And who is the most vulnerable in this space, right? It's going to be women, and particularly young women. So the ideal that
whoa. I thought this was the whole thing about men. Why? I'm lost. Let me start over now. What's going on with women, bro?
And let's face it, they are looking at an America where they probably won't do as well as past generations of Americans do, and who
every
are
24-year-old has economic angst, though, Cornell.
And who is the most vulnerable in this space, right? It's going to be women, and particularly young women. So the ideal that
well, we know you're always worried about the women's,
but Black power starts with Black women. It just does.
Black women gonna be all right. They got Black power. They can survive any economic storm. Black women have Black power and still a couple of doses of Black girl magic left. They're going to be good, bro.
A younger woman shouldn't be saying, well, you know what? I want to be able to take care of myself and I want to be able to get ahead. But, and I'm going to put that before having children. I think makes all the sense in the world, looking at sort of how their outlook on the world and the real economic anxiousness that they're in. And by the way, again, their ideal of freedom is simply not to just have a family, but to be able to sort of take care of themselves if something goes wrong, and quite frankly, to take care of their family if something goes wrong.
Oh, as a woman here, I'm going to chime in.
Thank you.
That nigga gay. That nigga gay. I can't be convinced otherwise. He was too happy to hear a woman talk.
That nigga gay, nigga gay, nigga gay, nigga gay, nigga gay, nigga gay.
He was too excited to hear a bitch talk, bro. Nah, I'm not going for it.
I will say, I think
that nigga too. God damn. All of these niggas gay, bro.
it's interesting that you don't see both of those things as priorities. You don't see having a career, having stability, making enough to earn a home, and then also having marriage, having kids and getting married lumped all together near the top as ideals to have a successful life. And I think part of the issue here is that young people are having such a hard time connecting with each other. The social media apps, the endless scrolling, there's always something better around the corner. It's creating a divide that makes it so that women feel like men don't want to commit and why bother with them, or they have bad behavior. And
yes, bitch, it's not a fucking fake divide. These are all real feelings and observations. Why commit? Bitches have bad behavior. It don't make no sense to put all your life on the line for modern, free, evil women who have risen up.
Good women are dead. Evil bitches, rise up!
Nah, bro. Nah. Niggas is making a whole other type of decision right now. She sound hurt too.
And I think part of the issue here is that young people are having such a hard time connecting with each other. The social media apps, the endless scrolling, there's always something better around the corner. It's creating a divide that makes it so that women feel like men don't want to commit and why bother with them, or they have bad behavior. And
notice the theme, right? Men to the right, women most affected. Notice that is the angle. This is the third clip we've played so far today, and we got like 2 or 3 more. I'm noticing a theme here. No matter what's going on with the men, women most affected. Men going to the gym, getting muscles, women most affected. Men driving big cars, women most affected. Everything goes back to women. Men dying in war and women most affected. Hillary Clinton started this whole meme with that shit too. It was so fucking hilarious the first time I saw it. I was like, damn, bro. Reality really is a series of memes. It's crazy.
Men feel that women don't want a strong man, don't want not a breadwinner, but don't want a man to be a man. There's that cultural message that's being sent online to men and the cultural message being sent online to women. It's creating this real divide.
If women wanted men to be breadwinners, they wouldn't be voting. Yeah, I took it all the way there. We could have stopped at a couple of points on the road, but I ain't got time for that type of shit. I ain't on that type of time at all. And that's actually the reality of it. Like, and I made this argument to the blacks, you know, shout out to the pro-blacks. I took a day away from arguing with the pro-blacks today. Your boy Bracy is up right now. He said he wanted to start some shit about the conservatives, but I left the nigga hanging, and now they up there talking about shit with hoes.
These blacks.
But I tried to explain this to the blacks, though. I really did.
To men and the cultural message being sent online to women, it's creating this real divide. You know, people don't go out after work any longer. They're not getting drunk together at bars any longer. There's just less of a third space for people to connect. And the social media world has just made it so much harder.
Everybody's getting lonely out there right now. And lonely, I kept saying, you know, men aren't exactly as lonely as women. But listen, nobody's happy. And so it's always weird to me when I keep hearing people like pick on the men in particular. as if the women are out there just having the time of their lives. Women are making all these I can't find a man videos and yada yada yada. And so it's like nobody can kind of honestly approach the question. You get guys like Bracy who always want to, jump on the men or whatever. And that is just the nature of the left wing anyways, to always put pressure on the male side of the equation. But you say boss up and build a harem. I mean, that's low key what's happening right now anyway. But the women they kind of have to be restrained in some way, shape, or fashion. Otherwise, you can't really have an orderly civilization like we're used to. We're going to have some type of weird Brazilian, South African type shit going on.
So I understand the separation. I think it's disappointing. I think having a family and kids is wonderful. I think being successful and having my own ability to make money and to take care of myself alone if I need to is also a wonderful thing. I'd feel uncomfortable without it. But I do think that we got to find a way to get those things back together as priorities, broadly speaking of, obviously.
We're going to try everything except for removing some of women's rights, privileges, and freedoms. That's the general nature of how this is going to have to play out, how things tend to play out, right? It's like an old saying too, mankind will try everything and except for the right thing, and we'll do that last. Something to that effect. But that's basically what's going to happen. We're going to try everything but the right thing. We'll eventually come back to doing that. It'll be like forced upon us in some type of way. We might get taken over by Islam for all I know.
Obviously not for everybody. Everyone's different, but broadly speaking. All right. Thank you. That was my TED Talk. Tim
I'm
Miller.
happy you were the one that booked the two men for the segment, Katie.
No,
so
we
thank
had
you.
Melissa. We ran out of time. Tim was texting beforehand saying women are going to hate me. I had to come to your rescue.
Thank you.
Cornell, really good to have you. Thank you, guys.
Now let's jump over here. Why are Gen Z men turning to religion? I told you, God got them, bro. There's nothing we can do. There's nothing we can do to save them. We can't preach to them. We can't minister to them. We can't save their souls. God got them at this point.
Is reversing a decades-long trend of a declining number of people in the U.S. identifying as Christian, with Gen Z men in particular being more likely to regularly attend religious services than millennials and even some younger Gen Xers, according to a 2024 analysis by political scientist Ryan Burge at the University of Illinois.
Hey, real quick, shout out to Clay Bisbee with the 5-ball. Out of all the people in the world, I truly hate black feminists the absolute most. I think the black feminist is coming up next, bro. So keep hate alive, right? Just do me a favor, Clay. Keep hate alive for another 10, 15 minutes, and we're going to get the black feminist up for you, and then you can let it all out.
Oh, man. Hate.
The shift in men's religious affiliation was one of the big reasons I felt compelled to sit down with Richard Reeves, who is the founding president of the American Institute of Boys and Men, which uses evidence-based research to understand all the unique challenges facing boys and men. His research indicates that what's driving many young men back to the church is a desire for discipline and structure in their lives, something that being part of a religious community can provide to them. Why are
these hoes are so chaotic that we all need a little bit of Jesus right now? I'm telling you, don't nothing make you get closer to God like wanting to kill a bitch, but just you don't though. It's like, oh, our Father who art in heaven, please don't let me murder this funky hoe. Like, hallowed be thy name. Like, it really is like that out here. We be needing Jesus, bro, because somebody gonna go to hell or heaven or somewhere. We gonna meet the other side of this shit, though.
so many Gen Z men in particular flocking to religion right now?
I think that young men are searching for structure and meaning and purpose. And maybe for some formation, like some moral formation. That sounds like a really old-fashioned word. But if you think about all the influencers online saying you should work out this way or have a cold plunge or this is your morning routine or whatever,
all of those are they're a demand for discipline in a way. They're a demand for structure. They're saying, tell me how to be in the world. And I think that hunger for an answer to the question among young men of how should I be in the world is to some extent being answered by religion, because that does provide you with community structure, purpose, meaning. And so I interpret it.
And notice, it's just a really weird moment that we're all in. It's almost, it feels counterintuitive, because it is correct that women tend to have the highest religious leaning between men and women. Women tend to go to church more. But the men are like, the young men, Gen Z men in this case, they're seeking out the structure and the rigidity and the rule system of the religious order, while the women are caught up in modern freedom. And because that religious structure is literally anathema, it's an enemy to their modern freedom, the women are kind of they're opposed to it most, right? I saw a video the other day, like last night, these two old fat black ladies twerking in church. They was breaking it down too. They was kind of like fat, so they was doing it slow because they was old. They was probably like in their 50s, but like, or 60s or whatever. But like, you know, Auntie and them was getting it in church, and that's kind of the way they do religion. They want twerking church. Young Gen Z men want Orthodox church. These young, and especially the white kids, they want the church with this that little incense thing smoking as the priest is walking around and shit. You know, that thing is also a weapon, so he could swing it around and bop the shit out of a bitch with that, right? Like, it's a very beautiful, intimidating kind of religion. And that's where guys are on right now. They don't want the twerking church. That shit is dead. There is no God in twerking church. Jesus does not live there.
As an expression of a real hunger among young men to, in a way, I think it's about finding your place in the world. It's about finding some solid ground to stand on. And that could come about in different ways. But I think some young men are trying to find that in religion now, a sense of themselves, just by going to those institutions.
And what kind of religion? Are we talking about like Orthodox, Christianity, Catholicism? What are you seeing?
The evidence I've seen suggests it is it's the more traditional religion. So it is Roman Catholicism, Eastern Orthodoxy, etc., which are very
very beautiful, by the way. Just aesthetically, like everybody in America has probably got a decent look at some Catholic aesthetics or whatever, but the Orthodox are tight, though. The Orthodox got their game tight. I like the Orthodox church.
They're very structured. They haven't changed very much. I was actually at a Latin mass at a Roman Catholic cathedral quite recently. So it's almost 2 hours, mostly in Latin, a lot of it standing, and it was full of young men. And I was really struck by that. And I've spoken to some of the young men there and at other churches, and it confirms my suspicion that this is largely not politically driven. It's more a sense of identity. It's more.
I would beg to differ. Now, I don't know. I'm not going to say that young men are organizing and going to church and holding little church basement meetings trying to plot on taking the women's rights away. But we're on the way. It's a start, you know. Keep the basement open. We will need that room for a minute.
A sense of like wanting to belong, wanting structure, wanting somewhere to go, maybe wanting somewhere where you're welcomed to some extent. But it's interesting to me that it does seem to be those more traditional religions, or the more demanding religions almost, that are attracting more men. It's almost like they want it to be quite hard. They want it to be quite old. They want it to be real. They want it to be authentic. And so you go to those really old religions, very traditional. And so in some ways, I think that
because the new pastor gay, bro. These new preachers, they be Eddie Long in the church up, man. We can't have this new church. We can't have the new Christianity. New Christianity, they got women teaching and shit. Got lesbians with buzz cuts reading from the book of Revelations. This new church is different. I don't like the new church. New church is in the mall now. They hold new church in malls and shit. I don't like new church. I like old church better.
Because so many of our other traditions have fallen away,
around men, right? Traditions of being a breadwinner, traditions of being head of the household. And to be clear, good news, because that's largely because of the rise of women. But if you're a young
Did you
man
catch the
today-
glaze? Whoa. Did you catch the glaze?
No. And so in some ways, I think that because so many of our other traditions have fallen away around men, right? Traditions of being a breadwinner, traditions of being head of the household.
So these traditions around men have fallen away. Traditions of being a breadwinner, traditions of being head of household. Those are male traditions that have fallen away.
Very traditional. And so in some ways, I think that because so many of our other traditions have fallen away around men, right? Traditions of being a breadwinner, traditions of being head of the household. And to be clear, good news, because that's largely because of the rise of women.
Why is that good news? Why is it that me losing my rightful historical place in the home and in the neighborhood, why is that good news? Why is it good news for men to lose a giant chunk of their male identity? Husband and father is a great part of the male masculine self-conception. There are not a lot of things that just generate objectively positive description like husband and father. And if you just kind of suck the life out of all of that, why is that a good thing? Why should I be happy? Why are you happy?
Our other traditions have fallen away around men, right? Traditions of being a breadwinner, traditions of being head of the household. And to be clear, good news, because that's largely because of the rise of women. But if you're a young man today and you're looking for traditions to attach yourself to, maybe religion offers that in a way that some of the other things don't anymore. We're seeing that young men are a little bit more religious now than young women, which it's a small gap, but nonetheless it's striking because it never goes that way around. Historically, it's typically been women who are more religious than men. And so the stereotype is if you see a guy in church, his wife or girlfriend's brought him there. Whereas now you're seeing these churches filling up with men who are going on their own or go.
Niggas about to go to church, so these bitches gonna have to leave. Niggas getting serious about the God thing, huh? Niggas about to pray, bro. These bitches gonna have to leave.
Going with their friends. And so the turn to religiosity is a little bit stronger among young men than among young women.
When did you start seeing that turn with more young men turning to religion?
Just in the last few years. So this
Why
is
do you
really,
think that is?
really recent.
You think COVID maybe played a role?
COVID definitely, so young men are a little bit more socially isolated than young women. That's a problem generally. Isolation and loneliness are a problem generally, but young men are a little bit more likely to be isolated, and COVID definitely added to that. So,
you know, 100, this is a controversial point, and especially among black men, because black men have the thirst unlike any other. I think the thirst is just significantly higher in black men. Like other men may be, you know, more aggressive and have other kind of practices and shit, but the overall nature of the thirst, the hunt, pronounced in black men, right? Just like, and you're kind of speaking to that now, right? God ain't finna get you the pussy, right? Now, here's the thing. As I imagine it, all these young men who are willfully going to church and subjecting themselves to that culture and that system of things, in a lot of ways, they are rejecting getting the pussy. And this is kind of the invisible strategy that has to kind of has to work in a certain way, because you know women will say this quite often, right? No matter what you niggas say, you're gonna come after this pussy, and they're not completely wrong. And I almost can't blame them, because you know it's pussy. Like I can't blame you for wanting it, right? But here's the thing: in order for women to actually get knocked on the back foot, the dick got to dry up, bro. A lot of dudes are going to have to actually just pull back and step out of the game. And when it becomes a scenario where the women noticeably, where the women are noticeably affected by not getting the attention that they thrive on, not getting the social support that they thrive on, not getting the just general care that they thrive on, then it's a conversation at the very least, right? Because, you know, these niggas are talking about the table and all of that, and I have no use for the table, but I think the only effective way to really break this shit is to actually pull back a little bit. You got to pull back. Not every nigga should do it. Not every nigga could do it. And I think a lot of dudes are just doing it naturally out of just sheer, you know, crapping out. You know, the incels are a great kind of picture in that sense, because a lot of those guys are just sort of like, fuck it, I'm good. And then even on top of that, you got guys who probably could make a good go at it. And it's like, you know what? I got to be to work by 10. I got bills to pay. I already got a baby. Like, I'm telling you, that is the one thing that kind of has to happen. Dudes have to kind of really make them actually feel it on a social level. Just like the dick pool is drying up. There's just literal way less dick for bitches to swim through. And that's going to actually affect the world. I know it's an awful strategy to think of, but that's how it's got to be. You got to think outside the box, bro. You got to break the thirst, man. On both sides of the game, you got to break the thirst.
What, in some ways, I think about is there have been various phases where you've seen a lot of men going online. You've seen a lot of young men become quite isolated. And now I think some of them are coming out of that a little bit. So here's the positive interpretation. They're starting to realize themselves that they need to do more, to connect, to get out, to find structure and purpose. So I think what's happening is that young men are themselves coming to realize that there's something missing in their lives.
And listen, I know I am not like the fucking guru on the mountaintop to be trying to lead some cause. I'm just a nigga theorizing and spitballing strategies and stratagems and shit like that. But hear me out for a minute, Uncut. Hear me out. And rejecting the pussy is the only path to the power that this argument is seeking. This argument being like the red pill, manosphere, disgruntled young men side of the game. Rejecting the pussy is the only path to the power that the men truly want. And so all I'm saying is a certain amount of men kind of have to do that. And a certain amount will and are doing it just by default. But the numbers are going to have to grow to a level where it's like other societal levers get pushed, right? Like, for example, I heard David's Bridal went out of business like a year or two ago. David's Bridal was a long time commercial, like nationwide establishment, coast to coast wedding dresses and shit like that. I hear right now the nightclub scene, the bar scene, just the general restaurant, because, you know, restaurants in a big city, like even in New York, right? Restaurants in a big city depend on men paying for women, going out on dates, buying drinks, flexing how much I got that you can be a part of and shit, right? Let's take this stink ass horse and ride around Upper Manhattan, right? All of that shit was like men flexing money on women. And all of that is also economic activity. And as economic activity dries up, the entire landscape begins to alter too. So I don't necessarily know how much of it is going to be a good thing. Well, in terms of like pain free, right? But some kind of pain has to happen, and you might as well get in on it, right? You're going to have to meditate your way through this shit, guys.
That no one else is going to provide for them. They're going to have to go find it for themselves. In the past, your role was kind of defined for you. There aren't enough trad wives to go around, to put it bluntly, right? There just aren't. So one of the things I always say to young men, if they are leaning very conservative and they say, well, I want a woman who just wants to kind of do what I say and stay at home and raise kids and, you know, grow carrots or whatever. I'm like, well, good luck with that, because there's a few of them on TikTok.
Listen, bro, trad wife is the internet thing, and most of those bitches are married to millionaires anyway. Most dudes just want a woman who isn't going to run off with the kids or try to ruin his life surprisingly one day. The trad wife thing is a lot. Like that's the extra step. You know, I might like to have it one day if I won the lottery or some shit. But no. Most dudes just want a nice girl who looks good and doesn't ruin their lives.
There aren't very many in the real world. You know, women quite rightly are taking their place in the labor market. Women are quite rightly asserting their economic independence. And if you want a romantic future, you better get used to that idea rather than hearkening to the past. And so at their worst, some of the religious institutions can act as a false call that we can somehow go backwards. And whether they say it explicitly or not, what they're sometimes saying is, and for that to happen, we need men to become more economically dominant over women again. And women need to know their place. And that is morally wrong, theologically flawed, and incredibly bad advice to a young man today.
Keep it 100. It says, well-fed, well-housed women who feel safe ain't fucking. That's like pimp wisdom. And you know what? Not only is that like pimp wisdom, I have kind of pondered this. Don't hate me because I'm theoretical and shit, but hear me out. Hear me out. On an individual singular level, there will always be some women who have some money because, you know, they had a man who died or some shit like that. They had a husband or a father or something, right? But in general, when it comes to like the labor market and women working broadly and being propped up and compelled to compete with men, what is the overall benefit of women having money? Just hear me out. Hear me out. I know. I'm the bad guy. I'm evil. I don't want these bitches to vote. I don't want them to have no money. I know. But hear me out though. The devil's advocate, right? Devil's advocate. If I accept, which I do, if I accept your premise that well-fed, well-housed women who feel safe ain't fucking, right? And as a general state of human nature, being well-fed, well-housed, and feeling safe was something that, you know, was really a cooperative effort between a man and a woman. Like as a woman, you especially needed the man to achieve that trifecta of well-fed, well-housed, and feeling safe, right? Now, because you had to have that man as like a key integral part of that three-part equation, that's how you got the fucking. And the fucking is how we got the population growth. And we need people, to be fucking. Those are like intrinsic, timeless truths of the human condition in terms of civilization, right? Those are intrinsic civilizational truths. You need people, and you need the people to make people. And if the women are well-fed, well-housed, and they feel too safe, they don't feel like making any more people. Now, how are we supposed to keep this shit going if these beautiful bitches don't feel like making no more people? Don't you like people? I like people. Goddamn, bitch, the fuck is wrong with you? These bitches don't like people.
Good women are dead. Evil bitches, rise up!
What about just seeking certainty in an uncertain, chaotic world? How much do you think that plays into it as well?
The really traditional and highly structured religions don't ask as much of you as an individual other than that you just come and participate
And bear through a 2-hour Latin service.
It's just
standing.
do it.
Do it.
And I think in some ways I do think that's quite appealing to a lot of young men, because the question a lot of them are asking is not how should I feel, it's what should I do. They're looking for a to-do list. And I think honestly one of the problems with our contemporary culture, and here I'll put more of the blame on the progressive left, has been to provide a very long list of don'ts.
Yeah, the progressive left and women, by extension, a large chunk of women don't like their biological role in the human existence. That is absolutely spot on, 100. This is why I've been saying, like, the left at its heart is they're anti-life. Like when you look at like in DC Comics, you got Darkseid and the anti-life equation. The left, from a political context, have kind of mastered the anti-life equation, right? That's why we have feminism. That's why we have the LGBT. That's why we have open borders, right? But between those three major things, not to mention crazy tarantula monsters devouring ballerinas on public transit. That's a whole sub thing. That's like lower number 4. But between those big three things, they have created an anti-life environment in the United States of America.
To young men, don't mansplain, don't be toxic, don't take up too much space, etc. But not very many do's. And so we've ended up with a situation where there's a lot more don'ts than there are do's. And I think there's a real hunger among a lot of young men for someone to help them or an institution to show them what to do rather than how to feel. And I think that might be one of the reasons why these traditional religions are doing well.
And if you want to watch any of our previous segments with,
like I said earlier, women have become so chaotic that young men are turning to God. Because what greater power is there? We really do need like Thor's hammer to come down here and set the law down, right? We need the power of God. We need cosmic justice. We need something other than this. Because if the Lord doesn't intervene, if the Lord don't intervene soon, all I got left is this good old pimp hand. And this pimp hand wicked.
And 29 years old, you are a member of what is known as Gen Z, and you are no doubt all watching this program on your giant big screen linear television, maybe even with rabbit ears. But be that as it may, we've got new data that shows just how different Gen Z is, this voting bloc is, from everyone else and also internally. CNN Chief Data Analyst Harry Enton is here. So let's talk about the kids, Harry.
Yeah. Now, before we talk about the kids, shout out to Mr. Enigma with the 233. Resist the endless atashkata with, nigga, you're going to have to stop coming up with these foreign Arabic Sanskrit sounding words, nigga. Nobody reads Sanskrit no more, bro. You killing me right now. You killing me. See, the way my tongue is shaped, I can only speak certain words. I don't like Star Wars languages and shit. That should be killing me, bro. But shout out to Mr. Enigma, man. Thank y'all for supporting the show. Hit that like button. Hit that like button. Are the women pushing men into the right wing? That is today's conversation. We will have a panel discussion. If you guys stick around long enough, you might have a thing or two to say. You can say that shit in a minute. But Mr. Enigma, I'm trying to pronounce that word, bro.
How do it equivalate?
Jesus.
Let's talk about the kids. You know, oftentimes we talk about a gender divide in our politics, but the gender divide with Gen Z is wider than the Grand Canyon. My goodness gracious, what are we talking about here? Well, let's just first talk about party ID margin. Look, there's a gender divide no matter where you look, but among Generation Z, it's significantly wider. Look at this. Among female Gen Z, look, Democrats plus 19 points. But look at Republicans among men. They have an 18-point advantage. That is a, get this, 37-point gender gap. Now, among all others, again, you see that Democrats lead among females, but only by 7, significantly less than 19. And then among all others male, again, you see a Republican lead, but instead of plus 18, it's plus 13. So what we see is a gender gap of 20 points among all others, and get that 37 points, nearly double among Generation Z. As I said, the gender gap is a Grand Canyon wide, baby.
It's like it's magnified. It's trends we see in overall society magnified in Gen Z. What if you look inside that generation at some of the splits there?
Yeah, you know I like to dive deep into that data. So I think it's just so important, the attributes. It's not just on politics, it's about how they see life. So Generation Z, important in your own view of success. Having children. Look at this. Male Trump voters, 34% say that is important to your own view of success. Having
right-wing men are the men who want families. Right-wing men are the men who would kind of try to be husbands. I mean, them niggas crazy, but like the numbers kind of look that way.
Children. That ranks number one on the list of attributes that a recent NBC News poll put out. Now compare that to female Harris voters saying having children is important in your own view of success. It's only 6%. That's 28 points less. And get this, on the list of attributes, it ranks last. So ranking last.
Yo, Rad, you could tell he like a theater kid or something. This nigga studied journalism in theater in college. He got a degree in journalism, and he got a minor in theater.
As for female Harris voters having children, your own view of success compared to ranking numero uno to male Trump voters. Again, a schism a mile wide.
And again, you have something sort of the mirror image of that in a way, right?
You're exactly right. Okay, so having kids is one thing. How about this attribute? Okay, important to your own view of success. Having emotional stability. That ranks three among Harris voters, 39%. But get this, among male Trump voters, it's just 9%.
Think about this. The women who are Harris voters rank emotional stability at almost 40%. And the irony is the left wing, which is notoriously full of women, is also notoriously retarded. Like let me be clinical. They suffer from a higher percentage of mental illness. They take a lot of pills. They be on medications. They be depressed and shit. So it's weird and ironic, but I guess it also does track that they would politically care about their mental stability because they're naturally unstable and they think the government can fix them.
30-point gap, and it ranks last for Trump voters. So again, just very different attributes on how the different genders are seeing life in general. And that is, of course, magnified when you look at female Harris voters who say having emotional stability is far more important than male Trump voters. And again, having children, which male Trump voters say is far more important in order to their view of life success than female Harris voters. Again, it's just
men care more about children than women. I would even go out on a limb and all of you bitches and the handful of niggas out there that you can fight me on this. Black men care more about black children than black women. Oh my mama, nigga.
How dare you say that we are not interested in families in the black community?
What black community? It's a black environment with black women and black children in it.
just so much difference between the genders when you look at Generation Z, and it's not just politics, it's about how they view success in life.
Interesting if they will carry this with them as they get older, or whether in some ways they grow out of it and become more like us old people, but we'll see.
Yeah, I know. Now I'm joining your group, especially with some gray in the beard.
Welcome aboard.
Oh, thank God.
Most men want traditional gender roles, but women, not so sure.
The majority of men in America want a return to traditional gender roles, but most women aren't so sure. That's just one finding from a brand new poll from the nonprofit news publication, The 19th, along with SurveyMonkey. We're the first folks to get a look at this. And the study also takes a look at Americans' views on toxic masculinity, as well as abortion access and stay-at-home parenting. There's a lot to dig into here with editor-at-large for The 19th, Aaron Haynes. Aaron, I was so happy when I started looking at these poll numbers and I knew that you were available to talk about them because there is so much to dig into here. I want to start on the return.
Of course, they got a liberal black woman on TV with the big old glasses to do this. Of course. You know, she got nice hair, though.
To traditional gender roles. It's a gap that we see between men and women, but then there's also a gap between political party affiliations and generations. What can you tell us about these numbers? We've seen these kinds of gender gaps reflected in other recent polls, but this one was really fascinating.
Yeah. Well, listen, Allie, thanks so much for highlighting the poll where folks can visit 19thnews.org to really see the results and read our.
Hey, Sid, don't crush my dream. Don't crush my dreams, bro. All right, a lot of that is coming right out of her scalp. Some of it might not be, but I don't appreciate you niggas crushing my dreams. Okay, and my dreams, a lot of that is coming right out of her scalp, and I don't like you niggas fucking with my dreams and shit.
Stories unpacking this, but yeah, gender roles was just among the issues that we asked about for the first time this year. This is the fourth time that we've done this poll with SurveyMonkey, and as you said, you had about half of Americans thinking that we should be worried about the impact of falling birth rates, for example, with more men worried about that than women. And, 31% say society would be better off if young people prioritized having a family, right, before professional accomplishments or other goals. But there are gender gaps and there are partisan gaps in those numbers. Let me just say 39% of men versus 24% of women believe that. And then 15% of Democrats. 15% of Democrats can.
Why that's the L? How come I can't have me a studious, sturdy newscaster chick with the long, semi-fake hair? How come I can't aspire? How come I can't eat, sleep, fight, bust with the rest of you niggas, man? You see what I mean? This is terrible.
Compared to 51%
Niggas won't let me have nothing, bro.
of Republicans say society would be better off if young people kind of prioritized having families before those professional accomplishments. And so, what does that mean? How is that showing up in their politics? How is that showing up in the choices that they're making every single day?
I also think that there's something that reminded me of when I was looking at a recent NBC News poll that we did that showed that Harris supporters had a much lower prioritization of having kids and starting a family, specifically female Harris supporters.
I could tell she a freak. She be putting on the suit and tie. She got to play nice around the white people. She into all of that crazy shit. She like to get smacked around and spit on and shit. She nasty, bro.
Compared to men overall in that poll who prioritized that much more highly. I thought that this was just another fascinating data point that can potentially explain the political as well as societal divide that's happening right now between young men and young women. I think the other thing that I was struck by was that your poll also looked at Americans' views towards toxic masculinity. Most of them overall, 62% of Americans agreed that it's a problem, but there was a gender gap.
All right, and this is the problem with the very concept of toxic masculinity. They haven't given a proper definition of acceptable masculinity, right? Like, what are the behaviors? What are the objectively, easily identifiable behaviors of acceptable masculinity? Like, am I allowed to put my dick on the table, or do I have to just not do that? Like, what are the rules? Because I be confused. Sometimes I don't know what I'm supposed to do. You bitches just be making shit up, and I don't know what I'm supposed to do all the time.
Here as well, 71% of women agreed that toxic masculinity was a problem, compared to only 53% of men. And generationally, as you looked younger, more people, more women specifically, saw toxic masculinity as a problem. And I feel like that shows up in our politics as well.
Yeah. But I do think it is notable that over half, 53% of men did say that toxic masculinity is a problem for our society. Look, this is something that the 19th covered, during the campaign and also.
You know who they never say has toxic masculinity? And I find this to be the most ironic and low-key spiteful things, but how come no man in a dress has ever been accused of toxic masculinity? Like, no nigga with titties, like actual breast implants, no nigga with titties has ever been accused of having toxic masculinity. No nigga with extensions and press-on nails has ever been accused of having toxic masculinity. How come that isn't a form of masculinity gone toxic, right? Like sour milk, right? If your milk spoils and it goes bad, it's effectively toxic to you, right? And how come nobody looks at that type of masculinity as like it has soured, it has gone bad? If you drink that milk, you might die. Like that looks toxic to me. I need to get a hold of whoever's making up these words, man. We got to talk.
As we have, we're 8 months into this administration, and we're seeing how some of this particular brand of masculinity, right?
How you gonna say that's not even a type of masculinity? Some of them niggas be big as shit, bro. What do you mean? How you gonna tell me that's not even a type of masculinity? Some of them niggas be outrageous looking, bro. Come on, man. Come on, man. That's toxic masculinity, bro. That's that fucked up poison masculinity. That's what I'm trying to tell you, bro. That shit's so toxic, it don't even look like regular milk no more. That shit look like some other type of shit now. Like, come on. They try to tell me about toxic masculinity. You got this type of shit floating around here. Shit be on TV. shit be trying to have conversations with children and shit. And you gonna tell me that's not toxicity? Come on, man.
That we're seeing playing out across the Trump administration. How is that playing into, how is that translating into not just rhetoric, but also policy, right? So
Yeah.
if this is a concern for 7 in 10 Americans, what are they prepared to do? How are they prepared to act on that? How are they maybe going to push back on that, either, you know, in society or even maybe even at the ballot box?
Yeah, and I do think that there's, in this larger conversation of toxic masculinity and the way that the so-called manosphere manifests in politics, there's almost this backlash to more women and more people broadly recognizing the privilege that comes along with being male in a society like ours.
What privileges I got? What privileges I got? Do you realize I've been up for all, I've slept for 3 hours out of the last 48. Like, after this, I'm gonna take a nap and I'm gonna wake up because we're gonna do some more YouTubing because I got things to do. But I don't have privileges. I have burdens and responsibilities and deadlines and shit. What privileges? Somebody needs to alert me of the privileges I got.
I think that that's definitely showing up in politics too. But then the poll also does poll an issue that is both gender and also overtly political, and that's on abortion access. You say that nearly 2/3 think abortion should be legal in all or most cases. That tracks actually with where Gallup polling has shown this to be in the past. But very small numbers think the government should restrict use of IVF, hormonal birth control, emergency contraception. That's also consistent with polling on the issue. But what do you think about how Democrats can use polling like this to layer onto a platform that's very much up for debate right now?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that, you know, Democrats obviously talked a lot about abortion, not only in the last midterm election, where as we look ahead to.
Yeah, one of you niggas in the chat got male privileges. Cause I'm sorry, I'm stuck. I really am. I'm thinking about this now. This shit took my mind to another place. Do any one of you men in the chat have a male privilege that I haven't heard about? Is there a privilege other than like writing your name in the snow, which you really can't do unless you have particular circumstances and shit? But other than that, like, I mean, you know what? I will say this. Speaking of writing your name in the snow, I do like the fact that I get to just kind of sneak and piss in any kind of weird place that, you know, chicks can't just go pee in a corner. Anytime you see a bitch pissing outside, you always be like, ew, you nasty bitch. But if you see a dude pissing in the corner, be like, God damn, nigga, get the fuck out of here. Like, it's not even the same. I will say that. That is one privilege I won't even deny. I won't even deny. Women always look trashy and horrible when they pissing outside. There's no way a woman can take a piss outside in public where people can look at her and she just gets full woman grace. Like, you always become like a homeless bitch at that point. So we got one privilege, all right? We do have one privilege, and it is literally connected to having a dick, which is awesome. I'm not going to lie. Like, having a dick as opposed to not having a dick is probably the best thing ever. Like, I wouldn't trade this shit for anything. No amount of money, no amount of tea in China, nothing is worth trading this. But we do get that one privilege, and it's literally dick related. So there is that.
Another midterm, but also in the last presidential election. But also, they talked about the economy, right? The economy continues to be the number one issue. And thinking about reproductive care, reproductive access, not just as a health issue, but also as an economic issue. We have also in our poll, many Americans being worried about their ability to pay the bills, right? And so, you know, the decision to have a family or not, that is absolutely one of the things that goes into it. People who are worried about their cost of living, having a family, starting a family, that definitely is also an economic issue. And so I think all those things maybe are tied up together. And
that's really one of the things that are pushing young men to the right, is that men ultimately want to have, most men, not every, but a vast majority of men would like the idea of getting up, going to work, coming home. Yeah, you guys, put this in the chat. Put one in the chat if you've ever had this, right? Because I've kind of had this briefly, but not extended. I've low-key had it maybe once or twice, but, you know, not for long. You come home from a hard day's work and your children are happy to see you and your wife is busy doing some girl stuff in the house. Like you literally get daddy's home. Like, have you ever heard daddy's home from the voice of happy children? And you know it's real because the kids, they don't really got nothing else to do but just be them, right? And so like that shit is actually like a touching, heartwarming thing. Like men kind of like that shit. Men want that shit, right? And so, not seeing a lot of ones in the chat. I feel for you niggas. We all in this shit together though. But no, it's not even you envy bitches, not at all. But remember, the women are at home with the children. You come home from work and you hear the kids are happy to see you, and the wife is busy doing girl things, you know? It's a thing, it's a vibe. I've seen it. I've felt the touch of it, you know, I've felt a little bit of the grace, but you know, I haven't been baptized in it, you know, I haven't been ensconced in the shit. So I can say that it's definitely different having versus not having. And that is kind of the heart of like why a lot of guys are pushing to the right, because when you strip away a lot of the argumentation, and a shout out to the ones in the chat, I'm extremely happy for all you guys. Shout out to everybody out there with children right now. You know, having children is so dope, but that aside, let me stop simping for the children. They don't even make no money. Goddamn kids. They don't even got a goddamn job yet. But men like the idea of that whole vibe, like Leave It to Beaver, the Huxtables. Hell, even Married with Children. You know, Al fucking Bundy. A lot of us can relate to Al fucking Bundy a lot more than, what was his name? Heathcliff Huxtable? Who the fuck can relate to a nigga named Heathcliff, by the way? Not a black, not a white, not a Chinese, not a Hispanic. This nigga named Heathcliff, right? But Al Bundy, though, as a kid, I fucked with Al Bundy. Al was my guy. I felt the reality of Al Bundy watching Married with Children. Nigga had a thought wife and a struggling son. That shit was prophetic, bro. No. He had a thought wife, a thought daughter, and a struggling son, bro. How was Al Bundy not shot in 2025? That shit was like watching the future when I was back in the past, bro. That shit was so prophetic now that I think about it. Nigga married his high school thought. Because, you know, it used to be safe to do that type of shit once upon a time. Nigga married his high school thought. Nigga had a thought daughter and a loser son. Like, God damn it, this is some modern shit. That was the Modern Family.
And we could see those two things being intertwined and playing out in our politics as well.
You and I have talked about the way that reproductive health care is actually an economic issue, and we're not the only ones. That was former Vice President Kamala Harris who often made that point. And you actually spent some time with her last night on the opening stop of her multi-state book tour. Talk a little bit more about that conversation, whether or not you see this as an end or a beginning, new beginning for her political career.
Yeah, it was really interesting. So, 107 Days is the book that finally has her, in her own words, kind of recounting her historic, unprecedented campaign for president. Obviously was unsuccessful in that, but, she unpacks kind of the lessons learned and gives people a behind the scenes. And this was really her first time in front of a crowd to discuss that. The crowd was super
Why does the mute button not work all the time? Kamala Harris was a horrible choice. I gotta tell you, of all the people you could have rode with, Kamala is most likely personally, like single-handedly responsible for at least maybe 5% of all of the new right-wing voters that you could have seen with Trump during the last election. Just putting her alone Just putting her at the top of the ticket alone forced a lot of people to the right. It was literally a hell nah to the nah type of deal, right? There was no way we were going to live with that shit. The cackling, she looked drunk. She probably is drunk. The thought rumors, and the fact that she was basically the co-pilot on a crashing plane, like, no, there was no way in hell. It was impossible. We were not about to do that. But you know what? I'm about to actually... I said we were going to do a panel, so we're going to do a panel. I'm going to throw the link in the chat in a second. But we're going to jump to this Tim Dillon clip here. Shout out to, I think that was True Hype through the Tim Dillon link here. I told you we were going to cue that up in a minute. But we're going to throw the link in the chat, and we're going to pull up the panel in like 2 minutes.
When these billionaires are telling you you don't need to own a house, it's not just that they don't think it's a good financial investment. Their interests are not served by you having block parties and seeing other people. They'd rather you live in a cell where people bring you Thai food.
The link is in the chat.
And you watch YouTube videos about people or reality shows about people that do have homes. That's what people do. People in Los Angeles go to their cell on top of a P.F. Chang's, eat those lettuce wraps, which are good, and then watch reality shows about people that can afford to have a home. That's pornography now. You come thinking about having a place to see your friends, but they don't want you to have any friends. They don't want communities. It's the hollowing out of the entire thing that serves their purposes. And the only thing left is the bread and circuses and the Kimmels and the this and the that. It's the only thing left. And you're radicalized easily one way or the other, and they're pulling strings because you have less and less of your own shit. You don't have a community. You live in some global world where, like, every single thing is the most important thing. And then you go online and go, you know my take, and you're supposed to care about shit that's like in a 10-block radius of where you live. You're not supposed to be involved in the Middle East. You're not supposed to be funding a real estate project in a place you've never been, in Gaza. It's not natural. It's insane. You're just not supposed to do that. You're supposed to care about things. You're supposed to know who got murdered 2 blocks away. Why did that person get murdered? You're supposed to know that. You're supposed to be interested in the crime in your area. Why? Because you live there. But now that there doesn't exist. It's malls and cupcake ATMs. It's fucking, private equity companies that build, mega structures that look like storage lockers. And you just sit there and get mad all day on the internet, and you don't know your neighbors, and you don't care if they get murdered. In fact, you might want them to. You have no stake in the game. And all of this isn't new, and it's being expedited at a level I've never seen.
And this is a big part of the reason why young men are mad and leaning to the right. I asked the question, it's the title of the show right now, are women pushing men into the right wing? And I could continue to make that argument, and I'll make some of that as we go forward in the panel. But a lot of what's happening between men and women isn't a purely spiteful gender divide, men hate women, women hate men thing. Like, that's on the surface, but underneath it all is money and policy. And that's really what's crushing men right now, a combination of money and policy. Not having money on your side, not having policy on your side that helps you get money and helps you keep money. That being said, we are going to bring up the panelists right now. Welcome to the show. We got Mr. Enigma, we got Bandit, and we got Trey the MBD. Mystery, you actually have the first slot, so please take the floor.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. First of all, I want to say it's your fault that I came up with that other term because you triggered me talking about the opposite of the autoscura. But today you were more spot on because you was talking about the men going to church, right? So with men going to church, they're having they're going to limit their mind, right? If they accept Christian philosophy, so they're gonna see and feel things and limit themselves, and that's what that is having a structured mind of restraint, and that's what you're proposing today. Was like the way to fight this is to restrain yourself. You know, when you see a woman you like whatever, you don't give in to your urge to speak to her. You just go on about your day. You benignly neglect her and everything. It's that kind of thing. And and so going with that, we're not having this free thinking society anymore. We're not just because free thinking is like saying, "Oh, you can be a butterfly" and all that good jazz, right? And men don't think like that. Do we have limitations and restraints of ideas that we just won't entertain? So that gives the principle of a limited mind that you have constraint and restraint.
Well, Mystery, let me jump in real quick before we pass the mic. I want to have a little back and forth real quick. But the idea of restraint, right? Self-restraint in particular. I think when it comes to like this concept of freedom, and this is why I kind of like explore government philosophies and shit, because I want to understand the previous arguments. There's no point in starting from scratch, right? When the foundations have been built so thoroughly. And I like to explore like the ideas and the reasons and how far we can go with certain things. And I wonder if maybe we are a bit too free, which is a dangerous thought, right? But the thing is, freedom without some level of restraint ultimately leads to either chaos or slavery, some type of calamity. And I think we have to put some kind of restraints on our own freedom. But I'm gonna kick it back to you.
Anarchy, sir. That the term you was looking for was anarchy.
I got you. But I want Mystery to get back in. I'm gonna get it to you in a minute, Mr.
Well, it's like you said, there has to be some kind of restraint, and the way it was assumed before, with the term with quotes like "freedom isn't free" because there's a responsibility for the freedoms. But when you give one group freedoms and you transfer their responsibilities to another group, so you empower one group in that way that they have all the freedoms and lower responsibility. But by shifting that responsibility to another group that has less rights and privileges and more responsibilities, you're oppressing that group. And in the overall arc of it creates a balance, but within the group itself, it's injustice upon the groups. Even with the group that's given those privileges with reduced responsibility, it's still an injustice. And so,
well, last thing, real quick, and I'm gonna get your response to this. Now, when you speak of injustice and the imbalance of freedom and how there's sort of a scale, like freeing one puts pressure on the other, I think we can actually make a case now that for the sake of freeing and liberating women, it almost necessitates the oppression of men in a lot of different ways, linguistically, legally, financially. What's the word for the family life? Like domestically. Go ahead, Mystery. What do you say to that? I'm going to kick it to the next speaker.
Well, it was like that at the dawn of the liberation, right? Because because the environment wasn't skewed, right? They were playing by the same rules that men were playing. But over time, women expressed their grievances with the rules because it was at that time it was more. Well, it wasn't for me. It just men became accustomed to it, and they were able to like, hey, you either meet the standard or you don't. And that's how they operated. But then when women got in, they were like, hey, we want to adjust the standards so that we can participate at a certain level as well. Whereas before, even in the family life, right, before they had the liberation and, you had the wife and family structure and everything, she gave up her responsibilities and her rights and privileges to her husband. and he gained the responsibilities, but he also gained the rights and privileges as well, or the authority that came with accepting the responsibility of this person and taking over. And that's why you had the things where the women couldn't have their own bank accounts and all that good jazz, because there was a balance there. That happened at a micro level.
Yeah, women call that little thing with the bank account some type of oppression without getting into the actual details of it, which was a state of balance. Like women actually they could have maxed out the family's credit cards, which is why the husband would have the final say on shit like that. So a single woman had her own assets or whatever like that, but it was under the context of marriage. A married woman wouldn't have her own things. But I want to kick it to Bandit now. Let's start from scratch with Bandit. Where'd you want to jump in? What would you have to say?
I just want to quote the Tim Dillon thing real quick. I want everybody to think of the movie Gambler with John Goodman's quote. Now, if you ever watch that movie, he has a great monologue about FU money. And basically it just says, like, if you buy a house, you have FU money. Government, your wife, everybody else can't control you, can't do anything because you have FU money. And it's basically telling this gambler, you just want a crap ton of money. What are you supposed to do with the money? Well, buy a house, have 3 months saved up. I mean, this is like the David Ramsey approach, but through a movie, which I thought very touching to fit what Tim's saying here.
Well, speaking of FU money, and we're gonna totally segue this, but I'm gonna use the FU money thing. Do you suppose? Because I think there is a tone that gets had in some of these male-female gender war dynamics where it's almost as if you have to have FU money to get maximum compliance from the modern woman.
I'm going to say the movie quote again. The point is, it's not what he means by FU money is basically leave me alone. I get to do what I want. And it's basically simple. You can't buy a house and you can't control your household, because at that point you're a slave to most things in your life. Now you're a slave to the government. The whole point is you need to have some kind of safety net in order to be a man, in a sense. Because if you're worrying about everything and you have no control in your life, no woman's going to respect you. And if no woman's going to respect you, the whole family unit's not going to respect you. And it goes to crap from there.
Well, the reason why I even started you perk my interest when you said FU money is because, and then I've been saying this for a while, the state of affairs between men and women, when you get underneath a lot of the acrimony and the name calling and the yelling and the accusations, it really is a financial thing. It's financial and it's policy driven. So like the policy creates the financial imbalance or whatever, but it's ultimately financial. And I think the problem is, in a lot of ways, women historically never really had the access or the capabilities to access the type of earning potential that men had up until the modern era. And so from like an evolutionary biology perspective, that is a completely uncharted territory for the men and the women.
Yeah, but let's take that a step further. If men have money, what do they do with money? If women have money, what do they do with on a stereotypical level?
Men will try to acquire family and women will try to live apart from her man.
So then why, going on the credit card thing that you were talking about, why would you give women money? If women are just going to spend it on themselves and men are going to sacrifice for the family, why would you give them money?
That was my question earlier. What's the point of women even having money? Like, I can live with the couple of women who got their father's money or their husband died or whatever. Yeah, fine. Yeah, they earned it, right? But as a general rule, do we benefit from women just like having money? Like, how does that benefit us as a society?
Well, like you said, it's all about your actions. If men en masse decided that we're just going to spend our money on cars and just live in a tiny house and not do anything with our money, society would have probably a say with it. You'd probably have a bachelor tax. You'd probably have all this other crap going on. If women, it seems that I find it ironic that when women have money and they just spend it on themselves, we don't have a maternity tax or anything like that. It's kind of, I find it very interesting that we play this as societal roles, but then when everything's equal, it's still men have to do everything. It's frustrating as hell.
And this is why I kind of make fun of the very concept of men and women being equal. It was always a farce. And if you notice, equality is only ever leveraged against men. It's never leveraged to like force women into any type of position.
That's because equality is not a tool. It's a tool. It's a weapon. Equality in any sense is a weapon. It's a weapon to advertise. I call it advertise America. So instead of having greats are, you can't have greats without people falling behind, because that's how averages work. You're taking the good and making it average. You're taking the bad and making it average. Now, if you understand that equality destroys any greatness, you would hate equality. And that's the thing. Like, men value structure and actually doing something with your life. So men understand this inherently. Women just want everything to be equal because they care about feelings. So it's always that tug and pull between rational and feelings. And I hate to break, you could be two identical twins. You're not equal. There's always going to be something that one twin does better than the other. And
well,
I'm just proving that even twins are not equal. So how the hell can I be equal to somebody else?
Right. Well, even in that, right, you can raise those twins in the same environment with the same parents who both love them and do as much as they can for them, which is a relative state of equality, but they won't be the same no matter how hard you try. And that's where the left tries to kind of like put their thumb on the scales and force equality to become sameness. Like we should all have the same this and the same that. And it gets very tricky, and you can't really proceed forward from that type of thought. But I want to kick it up. Latin Patriot, what's going on? You keep changing your name. What's going on, Latin?
Hi. Hey, you just said something that reminded me of an episode of like The Doctors, I think, that I saw where they took two twins. They did a study on twins, and they let them watch like some show called like Jersey Shore, I think it was, like some reality TV show, right? And one twin showed brain activity that she was learning something, and then the other twin, her brain was like she was going into like sleep mode or something where she wasn't learning anything. Basically, like the brain was not being used, basically.
Right. Even at that level, there is no true sameness,
Yeah.
I wanted to kick. Yeah, finish your thought.
I was just gonna say, it just goes to show that like you can show two people the same thing, and one will learn something, and then the other one won't.
You just made me think of per capita, and now I'm sad again. Trey to NBD, say something to make me forget about the per capita wars. What's going on?
What's up, man? What it do?
Show
Man,
it up.
yeah, great show. The whole like men going to religion, especially these younger men, my opinion is that society and technology have driven women to this like cliff of like lunacy, disillusion with life, relationships, and stuff like that, where they're at a brink. And men who refuse like the truth out there, like the red pill, whichever red pill, the way you look at it, the truth about female nature, they have no other choice but to go to religion, like Orthodox religion. Mainstream churches are gay, and their last bastion is an Orthodox religion or Islam, because they don't want to accept the fact that in order to, in 2025, to get women, you gotta basically use your pimp hand. You gotta be a nigga like me. You gotta not give a fuck. You gotta understand that women are grimy by nature. Apply the heat rule, and that's how you're gonna pull women. That's how you're gonna like get a wife, keep a wife, or like I said before, build a harem. And for a lot of younger guys out there, where they're still raised in a Puritan United States, they're still raised in a Puritan nation, so they can't accept that. Man, I got a wife, a chick And regardless of whatever she says, whatever she does, she's still a whore at the end of the day. They can't accept that. So they need God to comfort them.
Well, I think it's not just because I'm not going to tell you that you're completely wrong in everything you say, but it's not just, if at all, an issue of needing God to comfort them. Because I approach the religiosity with as much rationality as I can apply, right? Like, there's a point where it's just magical and you have to believe in it. But I try to apply as much logical rationale as I can. And so, like, it's not just about God per se. Let's try this way, right? When I'm in these pro-black conversations and I'm over on the Chitlin circuit, and what I realize is that a lot of black folk effectively want white civilization without having white culture, not realizing that the two are completely intertwined. It's like pulling DNA from bone marrow or something. Like you can't get the one without the other. And so it's like a lot of folk don't really realize that you just have to lock into certain behavior patterns if you want certain civilizational outcomes, right? So the harem thing is like almost a behavioral default, but it's not the path to the highest level, which is Western civilization ultimately, right? Because Western civilization maybe is unique in that they didn't actually just build with harems per se. Like a harem is a very natural thing if you think about it. Like I called it the warlord breeding style the other day. I mean, I put a post out on Twitter, and I think I said that up here on the panel as well. Like black folk basically like the warlord breeding style, where the biggest poop gets to knock up the most women. And that's a repopulation strategy, but it's not necessarily a civilizational strategy. But I'll let you go.
Yeah, I remember you had that stream. I was like in the chat going nuts because it's not really polygyny. Polygyny is, if guys are really going to get into religion, they really want God's word. Polygyny is God's word. A man on top of his clan, not like the worst member of society gets, all the women. No, that's not polygyny. That's not God's word. God's default setting, Isaiah 4:2, is a man and multiple wives. That is, how it under his settings. So what these guys are going over to the church and getting nowadays is Christianity light, because they can't escape what feminism has done to society. And even this Western civilization you speak of, all that was to keep the masses from freaking burning this shit down. You couldn't keep on having God's natural word go and all these dudes getting leftovers and prostitutes while the men in the top 20% got all the women. And by default, what happens? You gave women rights. Not you per se, but we as a society gave women all these rights. And what did they choose? They chose God's default, the 80-20 rule.
I don't want to Bible thump with you because I promise you I'm not that guy. I will say this one thing and kind of move it out of just biblical, like argumentation. But the father of Christ himself, Joseph, I don't think had multiple wives either. Now, the point I want to make, because the Abrahamic part of the Bible, the Old Testament, that's what they were doing. But in terms of Western civilization, the thing that brought us here, it was a very sort of king-queen system. The king has his queen, and kings may have some bitches on the side. Rich men will always have that. But in general, it's the king-queen system. The king-queen has to build and manage their little kingdom, however great or small it may be. And that's kind of what built Western civilization. And all I'm saying is that if you want Western culture, if you want Western civilization, you have to at least model a majority of Western culture.
But the problem is that only 40% of men have ever produced children, where versus like 80 to 85% of women. No, versus 80 to 85% of women. So
I don't know if it's a problem though, more so a reality.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The reality is that when women are given the choice isn't Western civilization was forced upon women. When you give, what happens is excuse me,
and
what's happening?
that's how we slowed that imbalance. By the way, there has to be imposition, Trey. There's no other way around it. There
Yeah.
has to be some level of imposition. But I'm sorry, I cut you
Yeah.
off.
No, I'm not in disagreement with you. But you can't basically have both at the same time. But what's been told to men is, oh, your natural inclination is to build this family, which this lie you've been told. Don't go out here and get multiple women. Don't spread your seed far and wide and take care of all your kids. No, you're supposed to have one woman who's going to be a good wife, cook and clean for you. Your kids are going to run to the door, white picket fence, go buy a house. Men were sold that dream by some boomers and a couple of us Gen X dudes. And guess what? We tried that dream at 23, like you stated, and we got horribly fucked over. Now we're out here telling dudes like, hey, you might want to listen to me. I'm telling you, that ain't the way. And here, I'll show you. I'll even show you for free. Build it this way. But that's being called toxic masculinity, the red pill. And you get all these, when CNN is speaking on it, that means the message that guys like me, even you, put out is messing with their billions. Hinge, Bumble, all these women in the workplace, all those tax dollars. We're fucking with that. So of course our message has to be toxic masculinity.
I'm not necessarily going to argue too hard against you right now, Trey. I just think when we're talking about the core of what it takes or what it took to build Western civilization, I think it's maybe a both and, right? You're going to have the vast chunk of guys striving to achieve and succeeding at having like the regular traditional family. And that guy, some of those guys are going to have some outside bastard children. And then there's always going to be like the lower poor classes who just populate at will. But I think ultimately we have to have a kind of a primary system. We have to have a functional model that the people aim for. Otherwise, I think it becomes too chaotic. And it's the
We
problem of
already
freedom
there.
without restriction.
We already there.
Last thing I gotta say, man, is that
Yeah.
I want this for the average guy, because here's the thing. Even all the tricks I could teach a guy how to build a harem, you could use the same tactics in order to get a good wife. Make you a sandwich. Shout out to Taz. You can get that, but what it's going to take, basically, most guys aren't willing to go that route. But at the same time, they don't want to marry a 5'4", 180-pound feminist. They're not trying to marry, a 49er, basically. They ain't trying to do that. So what is their only route? The internet, social media, buy crypto, work on yourself, and go to church. Because I don't want guys to settle for a horrible feminist who fucked their way through her 20s, had a couple kids with freaking Daquan. You don't want to be like a 30-year-old
Nope.
dude with a master's degree raising Aiden. Fuck that. Hell yeah, choose church every single time.
No,
Hey, Trey,
I can't even
Trey,
say
if you
that.
let me interject, Trey, you mentioned that before men and boys were told that it's your natural inclination to raise a family and all that, right? During that
Say that again, I'm
time,
sorry.
you mentioned before that boys and men were told that it's their natural inclination to build families and all that.
Well,
That's what
we were propagandized to believe that.
Okay, so all right, cool. So what were the girls and women told at the same time?
Oh, go get your degree. You're equal to men. Go out there, be strong, burn your bra. All this was going on while we were being taught that. Go out there, you're equal to your man. You can do you, girl. And there'll be a
And
sip at the end of the day, but it's in the stepdad pipeline if need be.
endless testosterone. But the only reason why I asked that because again, I just want to focus on the message that was given. It's still telling men what they should do, right? But when it comes to the girls, it's like, I'll do whatever. You can be whatever you wanted to be. That free thinking kind of thing. Whatever it is you think that you are, you think that you are that kind of thing.
Facts.
While men were given structure, a specific task, you are to raise a family, right? Very rigid.
Yeah,
It's structured.
the freedom of modernity mostly, well, it's supposed to belong to women. They reject the men who like, guys who can have multiple women. But Mr. O, you've been waiting for a minute. You were at the last slide anyway. But welcome to the show, Mr. O. What's going on, bro?
Oh, not much. I'm just enjoying listening to y'all pontificate on this beautiful Saturday morning, well, afternoon now. I've been going in and out, listening to the conversation, and you know what my Beirut narrative is. We need to take everything away from these bitches at West End. They have caused too much catastrophe for the last 80 years, mainly 60, but we won't go push it to 80 ever since World War II. Everything that we are talking about was actually warned to us almost 60 years ago what would happen, and right now we live in the fallout.
I want to ask you a question because I want to have a little back and forth with you, like I did with everybody else so far. The idea that I'm thinking right now is, with the title, are women pushing men to the right wing?
Yes.
Yeah, yes. I accept that in general. But I think that's easier to make that argument when it comes to white America in particular. When it comes to Black America, it seems a lot more difficult to knock Black men out of that thing. But the question I have for you is, do you think that ultimately the conflict between Black men and Black women is driving Black men to the right wing, even in those small numbers, maybe? Mr.
Could you say that again, Hood? I'm sorry about that.
Okay, yeah, I was asking you, do you suppose that this conflict between Black men and Black women, this gender war, the online gender war, really, do you suppose that it's helping drive at least a small amount of Black men away from Black women? Because I think this gender war thing is the one major cleave between Black men and Black women.
Yes, because a lot of Black men, especially after I say like the 2016 election, going into the 2020, a lot of them, including our eyes was open up to the malarkey that was presented in front of us, especially to our so-called country people. You know, both the women and the men in our so-called women in our so-called community. We found out that we don't have nothing in common with the majority of the country and community. So we have to go ahead and basically do as we have to do and move around. We got to find new frontiers and explore new parts of the so-called ideologies that's presented to us.
Now, as far as these ideologies, and this is one of the reasons why I actually like to immerse myself in the Chitlin circuit, so I can kind of stay in touch with the mental vibe and the sort of logistics, I mean, the logical patterns of a lot of these people. And it seems like the ideology for a lot of folk, and I'm going to probably do this. I was almost going to do this today, but I called the audible and we're here now. But I want to look at like Black people's aversion to the very idea of anything conservative. Like the word conservative automatically gets like a negative, almost a fear reaction from a lot of Black folk. And I'm wondering, do you suppose that with all the actual tension in Black America, and this is a far out theory I'm really throwing at you randomly right now, I suspect that the concept of racism is the one glue that ties Black America together. Without the concept or the threat of racism, there is not much culturally left to hold us together.
I'll go further. I'll say not only racism, but also criminality keeps the Black race together.
Well, I think the criminality and the racism are kind of linked together in a it's not direct. It's a sort of left brain thing. It's not really conscious. It's very subconscious. But the criminality is seen as almost an act of rebellion or revolution against the white man or white supremacy, even. And so therefore,
I go say further. It's more of a rites of passage, more so than so-called get back to the so-called machine.
Think about a rite of passage. Typically involves a certain level of danger, right? And so your danger in that rite of passage is the white man's legal system. And so that's why I kind of keep that. I keep coming back to that connection where it's like the whiteness is the thing that kind of does glue Black America together in a lot of ways. So when I think about this gender war, it seems to me that the one thing, and I kind of got this vibe a lot of times having conversations, it really is like an impenetrable, invisible barrier. The one thing that prevents a lot of Black men from fully embracing right-wing thought is the idea or the concept and the prospect of racism. It really is that. It's that one thing, bro.
That, and I go further and say it's tokenism too. You gotta remember, let's say that you don't fit the so-called aesthetic, the stereotype of even your own people. They'll label you as a token that you're selling now. You trying to be white, even when you're just doing common sense things like actually eating healthy food, actually washing your behind, and actually wear clothes that actually fit your body and that's aesthetically pleasing to the eye. Give me a few moments, Mr. Server, to let somebody else speak. I gotta take care of some personal business.
I heard Latina trying to jump in there.
Yeah, I was gonna say, but who's teaching the Black men these racisms?
From a young age, school, media, all the big institutions.
Oh, so
teach
it's
them that.
social engineering that's happening in the world, right?
I
The
would
feminist
argue
church as well.
it's a combination of mama and the environment at large. So
It's
it's
social
school.
engineering, in my opinion, because you see, like, what's
Yeah.
happening on the TV, mostly music, culture. Who's pushing the music? Who's pushing the culture? Who's pushing, everything that we
Those
see?
people.
Those people, we know what you're talking about.
It's
Well,
those
the other
people.
day, Hood, the other day you did say that Black women were the system.
I did, and I stand on that. I've been saying that for a while. I've been trying to get these niggas. This is what I mean. This is how difficult it is psychologically. It's almost like literally killing yourself in a certain kind of way. Like you understand. And Trey, maybe you can get this because I haven't experienced it. I've heard it explained. But the concept of boot camp is literally to destroy what you were so you can build up to be what you can become, right?
Yeah, honestly, well, just to speak on it, bro, I was a whole nigga before I hit boot camp. But bro, I basically cosplayed a nigga from the age of 5 on. And what boot camp was able to do was shake that shit the fuck out of me. It wasn't my default setting. So boot camp basically
But Trey, you had a dad.
Yeah, but it didn't matter. Boot camps, we lived in the hood. Eat or freaking get eaten. So it was basically I got set back to default settings. But this is where the Robert Zephyr comes in. I think that the nigga gene is certain Black folks' default setting, and there is no changing it.
Oh, hey Trey. So like I was talking to some people, telling them about like a relative of mine who married into a family that they pass on a webbed toe, right? So the father has a son, his toes are going to be webbed, and his son's toes are going to be webbed. And I was saying, like, what if people have webbed brain where like no matter what your brain's not going to be functioning properly no matter what, just like my cousin's toes inherited the webbed toes. Like that's a birth defect in my opinion.
I think truism had a word. He called it the recessive inbred Negro gene. Yeah. And I think there's maybe perhaps some truth to that. But what I come to realize though is like, especially in this chitlin circuit, a lot of folks have this sort of just the racism thing. It feels like it could be genetic even. It's such a cultural block that it almost feels like is the white man in your genes holding you niggas back? Like there's something fucking weird about it, because when you explain like certain conservative concepts, which I have to get into because I found something riveting we got to go over. But like when you explain certain concepts to a lot of Black men, I've literally watched the short circuit and then a reset back to factory settings, which is racism and then white supremacy, and I gotta be a nigga, and Black woman is God and all of that. Whereas like Trey, I can relate to what you said, where I had to accept that wasn't my base programming. that was, you
Yeah.
know, that was an app, right? I had to learn that. I had to add that on so I can make my way and be cool and be happy with myself in the moment in the place where I was. But I don't think it was my original programming, because like I had, you know, suburban middle class experience. So I have suburban middle
So
class
what age is
aspirations
this?
now.
What age?
Well,
is
this is coming into this is manhood, fully, you know, in my 20s and going into 30s at this point, realizing certain shit. But I'm just talking about Trey. Like I can understand and relate to that idea of like the base programming analogy, and I realized the base programming thing is it's deep, bro. It really is deep, and it feels unshakable.
Can I say
Hood,
three
Well,
things?
I think
Hold
the
on.
internet can only so
Let Latina say her thing. She got a soft
Okay.
voice, and I'm gonna have to be the deep voice for her right now.
Okay, so the three things I want to say was that I finally, after hearing about William Bill Cooper's book, Behold a Pale Horse, in 2020 or 2021, and I heard about this book and this person through people in your channel, and I wanted to, because, you know, like I noticed there's a difference between like lefty channels in your channel and like, you know, people who are like more based like you, their comments are more intelligent and interesting. You'll learn something, where the other left side leaning, the comments are going to be like more brain dead comments. And then there's my theory that I have a personal theory, where I believe like during World War II, I've mentioned this before, like, how do I know? Because like 400,000 people, men, died supposedly, apparently, during World War II, right? And I didn't know that they had drafted men to war in World War II. So I have a theory that people were handpicked to go to the front lines to die, because they needed to get rid of these strong male leaders in the communities. Like, I think that like local politicians got together and with like, you know, the federal government, whoever had the power to draft these people and
Culling,
handpick them and
basically.
force them to get out of
Yeah.
and delete them, have them deleted. And then
Like removing all the strong bucks from the
yes,
herd.
yes, especially from Black communities. I believe that a lot
Well, it
of
was
strong Black men were sent to be deleted on purpose.
I think
well,
you're onto something, but there's a caveat you're missing. I think it's strong males without a reason to add anything to society. So like if you're a productive male that's doesn't have a wife, doesn't have a family, doesn't have anything to go, that's a problem in society because that person's going to cause issues.
Because when I
So
was like
yeah.
researching the Battle of Athens, Tennessee, I read an article, and in the past, the men used to gather in like the town square, and they used to have conversations in public, talking politics and stuff, because it is a duty. It used to be, probably in my opinion, it was more common that it was a duty to be politically involved. And if there was like a town where they had planned to overtake it with certain people putting into government, it is
the
like
World War
playing
One
those
vets
strategy
rose up.
games.
Well, Latin Patriot. Let me go deeper in that, and this goes to what Hood said about, you know, Western society was created through, you know, like, you know, monogamy and like one man, one woman. Well, World War I and World War II, you took basically a large swath of the population of military age males who thought this way, basically European minded men, and you told them to go kill each other over in Europe, over in Asia, in North Africa. That was a culling, which I say was 80 years in the making of what we have now today.
Because I also found an article of President Roosevelt, and he said basically, if you're not paying attention to what's happening politically, because you have an obligation as a voter to know what's going on politically, if you're not paying attention, if you don't have the time to pay attention to what's going on politically, then you don't deserve the right to vote. And that article that I found was from a university website, and when I went back to look at it again a few months later, guess what happened to that article? Because I shared it online with other people on YouTube. That article disappeared from that university website and was replaced with Black History. Everything
Yeah,
Black History.
But hold up, Lat. Hey, Hood, can you bring up Smoggy Froggy's comment about World War I, World War II in Vietnam? White
Did you
men and
guys
black
want me
men?
to stay, or did you want me to go?
Yeah,
It's up to you. I never ask you to leave. You always leave on your own.
All right.
Well, one thing I want to point out is what Trey said: military age men, right? Because there is a limit on the men on the draft, age limit. There's a cap on it, and what you also can look at when Latin Patriots talks about men who are strong, it's really more getting rid of men who are uncooperative because most revolutions are started by young men. That would be more in line.
I think I actually Latin Patriot. Now we spoke about this a little bit before, and what I was saying to her then was that you need not be as like individually particular. Like you don't necessarily have to target anybody, because if it's as systematic as a draft where we're just taking large waves of guys, like every couple of weeks we're taking a couple of guys from every little town and every city or whatever, and so if your goal is to remove the sort of the either troublesome or criminal minded or just the extra guys or whatever, the draft, the wars are a great way to do that. And one of the things I pointed out, and I'll say this to you now, World War I effectively wiped out British nobility, and then World War II came along to finish the job. And so that's kind of the reality of what like Latin Patriot was trying to explain. Like that is kind of not a far away conspiracy theory. Like a lot of the key decision making class did get wiped out in wars, but World War I was really the one.
But hold up, but look at what Smoggy Froggy says about Vietnam. World War I, World War II, get it. But Smoggy Froggy, if you look, who were the black men, the brothers going over there to fight in Vietnam? They were the most patriotic. The ones that loved America, the most conservative. Those are the ones that were going over to Vietnam. The ones who weren't, they were out running around screaming like chimps out in freaking California with Angela Davis.
And New York. Don't forget about New York and Chicago. They was doing it up here too. Don't forget about that.
The other thing you guys have to remember, we can look at the modern day version of this. Look at Ukraine. Ukraine, they actually knew this war was going to be a war of attrition because they sacrificed the older population first. Now they're sacrificing the young people. Ukraine's not going to exist. They don't have the population.
War. It's just crazy, man.
Yeah, I'm just saying Ukraine will not exist. They don't have the population to.
They've already
to
sent
survive.
all their people to California to
And
come
I
and
heard
take jobs.
I heard a lot of those people are moving into Ukraine, like they're leaving the desert and repopulating in Ukraine, which is like Khazaria. So it's all coming together now.
Yeah, it's but as far as the the brothers are concerned, when you had that vacuum within the community, who were the only ones left to fill it? Pook, the revolutionary, and who was guiding them? The boule, the boule. Feeding them with all this racism. You were slaves. You came from Africa nonsense.
And you know what? This is the one theory I have. This is the one theory I have that I think there's a hope for Black America to turn a corner. But I would love Ty City I would love to hear his thoughts on this. Somebody's gonna have to clip me and let me know if he actually responded to this, because I know you're here right now, Ty. The JQ is probably the one thing that can actually really pull Black America away from the Democrat Party and away from liberalism. If more and more Black people, because I know, Ty, you talk about it a lot more openly than I care to do at this point, because I've done that enough. I'm trying to be clean and family friendly, and shekels be raining on me, and I like the rain. I like the wet. I like the nature stuff, the weather and all that. And so, Todd, you like to talk about that a lot more openly, but I think the JQ thing, if a lot of Black men really understood the whole JQ thing a lot more, I'm not saying it would automatically make them Republican, but they would be less liberal, because it's a lot more on the liberal side than the Republicans.
Well, that's one of the reasons why you see a lot of brothers rolling with Nick. Like, and I won't say his last name for your channel, but a lot of young brothers are rolling because he poses the question. Also, he says what they're thinking. What's wrong with having kids with a woman that looks like me? I want my kids to look like me. He's
niggas be saying
to young
that
brothers.
Black
Yeah.
men say that shit, and I don't fault either side for that. Like, this is why I don't really have a lot of criticism for the interracial thing. Like, people gonna be people, but at the core of it, most people are gonna stay with their group.
And them niggas is half gay. Them niggas is half gay, man. They look. Have you noticed in the last 20 years that the modern so-called liberal man, he sounds like the so-called single mom Keisha from the hood from back in the 90s. Have y'all noticed that lately?
But that's what I'm saying, Mr. O. Nick is pulling them away from that. Nick is waking them up from that, making them look at it and be like, look at themselves in the mirror. Like, okay, this guy is saying all these things, I want to hear, but at the same time, he's going against what my mama said. And what my mama said has got me nothing but locked up. And a couple baby mamas that have
He's
slashed my
got the
tires.
birdies in the background.
Black men have been conditioned by these women under the Michael Jackson spell. Your mama say, mama sigh. You know what I'm saying? It's always gonna be that damn cast, and I think Michael Jackson really did curse us with that damn mama say, mama sigh.
Man, if you don't say it correctly, I'm gonna tell you one more time.
Damn, Trey, you breaking up.
Yeah, you breaking up, bro.
Nah, bro. Let's do it more modern. I say Tupac's "Dear Mama."
Even worse.
That song was so sad.
Yeah,
Like, why are you
that's what I blame it on.
That's crazy.
No, if you listen to it, look, when we was kids, we didn't understand what Michael Jackson was saying. We literally thought what he was saying was "Mama say."
No, Dear Mama. No, she's talking about Dear Mama was sad, right? Dear Mama, you know what's funny? Dear Mama wasn't a sad song until
It was a pathetic song.
I'm not even gonna lie. I really didn't start looking at Dear Mama different until like I started doing this YouTube. Well, before I even was doing YouTube, I was listening to it. And Tommy Sotomayor, I remember he was the first person I ever heard to say, "You hear how ain't shit our mothers is? Look at the Dear Mama song." And I was like, God damn, this nigga just ruined it for me. Holy shit, I can't never like the song no more now. Tommy ruined the song for me. Swear to God.
He ain't ruined for. I was never a Tupac fan, but I didn't know why. But it took a guy like Thomas Sawyer.
I was a Tupac fan, though. I fucks with Pac. I fucks with Big, but like that shit killed it for me, though. I gotta listen to other Pac shit.
I always thought it was weird that on one track he's killing niggas, and then on the other track he praising his girlfriend that's Queen Latifah. I was like, whoa, what's going on here? Like, I always thought it was weird.
Thugs are complex and emotional, bro.
Yo,
they're just emotional. They ain't really that complex. They ain't really that complex. They're just emotional.
Yo,
I'm gonna give you that. I'm gonna give you that. Complex emotions and shit.
Yeah, Mrs. MBD came to me and said, "Oh, that's my kid's song for me. They love that song for me." I was like, "Your kids think you a crackhead?" She's like, "What?" And I said, "Listen to the lyrics." That was all it took.
Yeah. You gotta. This is the thing about childhood, like. You gotta sometimes go back and relook at stuff that you watched as a kid and get an adult take on that shit. And I'm not even gonna try to ruin anything for anybody, but just go back and rewatch some of the stuff you used to love as a kid. You're gonna realize, like, oh damn, it was such a different world. This shit was actually retarded sometimes. Like, you're gonna go back and laugh.
Look, I'm looking through I'm looking at, because I like 80s movies and TV shows too, but I'm looking at the 80s, the 90s, all the way up to 2009. I'm looking from a different lens. I'm gonna have to say this, and I hope nobody take the offense to this, especially these fuck these older people. Them people was retarded back in them days. I'm really want to go ahead and say that we only came to so-called modernity up until good clear thought around 2010, even though around 2010. Yes, I'm going there.
Obama?
Bro. Look, he was 2008, bro. That he ain't started tweaking until 2011. So I'm giving him some grace.
Bro, you telling me you trying to compete with They Live? You trying to compete with the Running Man? You trying to compete with the original Terminator? Come on, man.
Hey, look, man.
You know what, Uncut? That is a great topic that I might steal that from you if you don't do it first. I'm claiming this right now. If you don't do this show first, I'm stealing that show title and that subject content matter. The red pill lens is permanent. All right.
Yeah, there's no going back.
I'm throwing it down right now. So you can rightfully claim I'm stealing it from you just in case I get there first. But that's a great fucking title. That is
Hey, can I
actually I like that concept, and I want to explore that
Now,
thought a little bit.
now,
Hey,
Trey.
can I respond to Miss Cantrell real quick because she said something to me when I was on my like soliloquy before I saw it, where she said that this whole monogamy versus polygyny, like my solution isn't for the masses, and that I'm romanticizing it. Can I clarify for Miss Cantrell, because she's like, I love you to death, Miss Cantrell. You like the biggest supporter Hood got over here, but I'm not romanticizing it. What I'm saying, as I stated, look, if I give fellas the solution that could help them create a harem, they are the exact same solutions that will get them the freaking the wife, the 2 cars, the 2-car garage, the white picket fence, and the dog. The same exact solution. You just don't got to go out there and pull 2 women or 3 or 4.
Yeah, it's a weird conundrum that, and you're not wrong. I'm just kind of jumping up on it because it's a funny thing I've noticed. Right, women ultimately want the guy that can have a harem, but sacrifice it because he loves her the most.
Right.
And that's it.
But he says that even though statistically only 40% of men actually have offspring or procreated, while 80% of women have had kids. So that by statistics just insinuates a harem on its own,
Now,
especially when
it's so
there's
funny.
more women than men.
When I laugh at niggas because niggas be struggling with numbers and per capita, and that shit is like forever funny to me. But when I think about that reality about most men don't reproduce, I be like, damn, you know what? I actually did my part. 1, 2, 3. I reproduced. It wasn't just 1 for 1. We made an extra one so we could boost the population stats. Like, I did my job, goddammit. You niggas don't be doing your job. And you bitches don't be letting these niggas do their job. We all got a job to do.
Well,
Hood, one of the go ahead, Michelle.
Well, I mean, can't really fault the dudes because unbeknownst to y'all, I mean, there's this thing called the ABs that's took a precedent since 1973 that deleted, like, if we only like the 14% of the population, we can at least be 28 by now if it wasn't for the so-called deletion. So I'm pulling the blame to the other agenda of the so-called community, for our so-called depleted numbers on top of the gang violence.
Mr. O, women only delete kids of bitch ass niggas, bro. I just gotta be honest. Women don't freaking delete kids of real niggas, bro. If you 6'8" and you play in the league, they ain't getting an abortion, bro.
No, I find that dubious because I know when in my little area, I know when you pop and get a black woman pregnant, when you're like ecstatic, like, hey, I'm gonna be there for you. I'm gonna put the kid on my insurance. And all of a sudden, they're like, you know what? I don't want this, and I had a miscarriage. That kind of thing takes place.
That shit sound like a dirty folks tale. I swear to God, that nigga literally said, "All you gotta do is act like you want the baby."
Oh, that's what I wanted to say. Speaking of dirty folks, I'm glad you just said that.
I
believe it.
That nigga about to pop up like Candyman right now. I swear to God, that nigga just.
I believe it,
bro. Mr. O, you gotta
that nigga too.
So
you gotta look at it like this, Mr. O. Mr.
Go
O,
ahead.
think about it. You got women out here freaking hooking up with basketball players, daggone using turkey basters, or freaking trying to steal the condom to have babies with NBA players or these tall ass college niggas and shit. But
Like
then
Drake?
if you 5'4" for nuke type nigga, they having an abortion.
I mean, they've been doing that since the 1980s. They actually just upgraded back in the 80s. It used to be the investment bankers and counsels who was getting the turkey-based treatment.
Yeah.
Now they're going for the gusto. They're going just for entertainers, athletes above 6 feet. The whole 6 feet thing, they have moved the goalposts on that, gentlemen. And ladies, I know y'all crazy work. We know y'all want to do is at 6'5" now and above. Y'all think y'all fucking slick. Y'all think y'all fucking slick.
That's on the genetic side, but I think Trey need to put respect on brothers who are making it, who at least making like average money or whatever.
I don't even think it's that. Look, I think you're not wrong, but there's another side to that game as well. There's a lot of corny bitches. There's a lot of fugly looking bitches having funny looking niggas babies.
It's always have been, Hood.
Right. And so the point I wanted to make to Trey is to kind of mitigate. He went a bit far, I think. Women have the babies they want to have, regardless of what you look like, because it's not even who you are, it's what her circumstance and her situation is at the moment.
Let me be hyperbolic, damn it.
I'm
Hey,
just saying,
conservative.
it's too many studs out here getting knocked up for you to be too accurate with that statement. You slightly inaccurate with that.
I just doubt
So
that a chick is gonna abort a baby from a dude making six figures, and let's say he's 5'4". I don't think she's gonna abort that baby.
What?
Well, hold on. Let's see.
And he's
Get in
making
there real quick,
yeah,
Latina.
you're probably right about
and
the
he's
Shit.
adopted.
abortion of
Nah,
a
bro.
rich guy.
Nah, bro.
She's gonna want the child support of that. She might try
Is
to
it
get him to marry
okay?
her. But conservative, you had showed a clip of like some 1990s show, like, and I checked out like two shows. Like one was called Living Single, and the other one was like Steve Harvey recently. And the Living Single show, I started it from the first episode of the first season, and I was like, oh my gosh, this show like really brainwashed women into like being independent queens.
Hey, you
Yeah,
could have
that's the
another
black
baby.
women shit.
No, that
You
was
could have another
that was one
baby.
before it. That was one before called The Women of Brewster Place. That's
Well,
what
that was
really
like a
Oh,
mini series though. Living Single was like every week with it for a couple years though.
yeah.
They was out there.
Or Jack A on 227.
Oh God, yeah, they was OGs. They was the old aunties and shit. That shit is so tame though compared to what's on TV now, bro. That's why I don't even like to watch new TV, man. Y'all just
me either.
So basically,
Tyler
you
Perry
can't be
producing
letting
shit.
kids watch TV basically, and so like it will be really hard to like change the direction of society because a lot of the children are being like messed up in like public
Now listen,
schools.
you gotta go like semi-Amish, bro. Like you could live in a city, but you can't let your kids watch television or have like a phone. You gotta get you like an old school flip phone, like an old Nokia with a little tiny screen with like three pixels and shit. That shit just got black and white text. That's all it get. You
Right,
can't
and
really let your
conservative,
kids have access to the world.
But I'm sorry, fellas. I know Miss Cantrell. I'm so sorry, but the only solution I see is to be a warlord and have you a clan. I'm
That's
sorry,
right.
Miss Cantrell.
Yeah, keep
Hey,
the
you
kids
can
on
only
the compound. You gotta keep them on
hey,
the compound, bro. I'm
hey, you can
telling you.
only learn that from a Chicago nigga. You look, shout out to my boy, my homeboy, my ace-bone coon, Chief Keef. We changed the world about 15 years ago. We made everybody want to become a Chicago nigga, specifically a Inglewood, Woodlawn, off of 63rd, but we not from 63rd type of nigga. So you look, y'all welcome. Y'all welcome.
Albert, I don't even know if I trust PBS, bro. You gotta watch like PBS episodes before 2000. I don't really trust anything that's like modern.
That's
If
it.
you're gonna watch, because even PBS right now, you might fuck around and see a transgender on PBS talking to ABCs and shit
Well,
with
and
Elmo or
Caillou's
something. I
that
don't want
little
that.
bald boy, and all he does is complain all the time and be a whiny. I can't
Oh,
even
and
tell if he's a
nobody
boy
likes
or a
Caillou.
girl.
Caillou's such a little bitch
Nobody.
ass nigga.
Man, Caillou been a little bitch.
Nobody really liked Arthur that much. You know what I'm saying? Arthur was he had his moments, but nobody really liked Arthur.
Arthur was
I know.
alright. Arthur had some
I
stat, like he was cool. I mean, he was a nerd, but people liked it a little bit. But Caillou, everybody hated Caillou. Caillou was just so fucking corny. Anyway, bro, we shitting on these little kids. And
I
shit.
knew it was bad. I was watching. I was trying to introduce my kids to Transformers, this new age Transformers, and they scared one of them motherfuckers with a pronoun. He's like, mine's just they. I'm like, oh hell no! Like, nah, this gotta go.
Bro, what happened?
thing, bro.
Why did in the last Transformer movie was Optimus Prime such a little bitch? Did y'all notice that? Was it the one where
he
the
went
animals?
to the space and,
He was
and
on
the
Rampage.
space woman was God. That's why Optimus
He-
Prime went out to space and he found out
wait,
the
wait,
space
wait.
bitch was God, and that's why he came back acting like that.
Are you talking about the Transformers One movie?
No, the Optimus Prime the last night. That's when he came back and he was trying to fuck everybody up. Optimus, because the space bitch was God. I'm trying to tell you.
Yeah,
Man,
Queen
he was
Tesla.
so
Yeah.
soft compared to the
Yeah, it was
Optimus Prime when like the one when Mark Wahlberg found him in the barn. Man, that was a real nigga. Or like even the
Right.
first one when
And he
fought
left, and at
Megatron.
the end of that, he went off into space to go find what happened in space. He found out, oh, the space bitch is God, and then he came back on some whole shit. Like, yo, it was so fucked up. So I hated that film.
They established they established that Optimus Prime had gotten softer over the years because they had that one. I just saw with my kids the Rise of Beast, the Beast movie, because that was like a prelude movie.
Beast Wars, yeah.
Right? Yeah, and that happened prior to the original movies, whatever. And then now he was like a xenophobe. He was like a racist. No, he was a racist. He was like,
That
fuck
would be
these humans.
interesting. That
He
would
was
be
so
interesting.
pessimistic in that one.
Look,
He was-
listen. Low key, Megatron was right. I'm just saying, you want your people to live or not?
Magneto was right. As Megatron was right, Magneto was right too.
Look, we gotta wrap this up. I'm not even trying to get into bot theory and Optimus versus Megatron, but
Wait, did you say bot theory? Oh my
bot theory, yeah. Listen, don't get me started, bro. I got theories on top of theories. I think too much. I drive, I think, I talk shit, bro. My mind never stops, bro. I sleep and
man, wherever you smoking, I need some of that, nigga. You know what I'm saying? Wherever you smoking.
I can put you on, bro. I got the cheap spot. That shit's some dope too.
Oh yeah, and
You still
Mr.
got
O,
that fanny
before I
pack?
dip. Hey, Mr. O, thanks for not responding to me when I was in Chicago, bro. The last couple days, when I kept telling you, I was trying to hit you up, bro. But here's the thing, Mr. O, we winning over here on the dark side, man. Gotta come to this side. That's the YouTube, Miss Cantrell. Catch y'all later.
What's the dark side though? Did I miss something?
The polygyny side.
Nah,
Oh,
boy,
man,
it goes deeper than that. It goes deeper than that.
Yeah. Trey got his own special wing in the gulag.
All right, see, look, I salute the polygyny thing. I think it's one of the best things that could happen. It's just me. It's bad enough to deal with one woman. You asking me to deal with multiple women at one time, and some already coming pre-fucked with kids. And no.
I'll give you the secret, Mr. O.
And
Mr.
they
O, okay,
ugly?
real quick. Here's the
It's a
secret,
secret
bro.
society, bro. All he asks is hoes.
Bro, here's
Trey,
the thing, bro.
can I ask you a question? Do you have a madam?
Huh? No, I got 2 wives, bro.
No, I'm talking like a one chick to handle the other. Like one main one that kind of filters
A
out.
hierarchy? Yeah, a hierarchy, yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody has
There
a
we go.
hierarchy. Hierarchy is how you function in the world.
But here, that's what I was saying, Mr. O. And dirty folks, you know, dirty folks, we big up on this one. It's the thing, man. When you put 2 of them together, and they got to be in the right mindset, they can't be straight. Even it works with strags. No lie, bro. Once you put them again, when you put them together, you got to keep a certain level of chaos and muse mastery. Thank me later, bro. You'll figure it out. Read between the lines.
You got to go to Trade Channel for the game. You can't get the game here.
I'll be over there later. I'll be over there later with my pen and pad and my glasses.
I'll come to your channel because Mrs. MBD is in the chat, so I can't give her the secrets either.
Gotcha.
Yeah, because the student always be trying to outdo the master, and you got to learn new judo flips and shit. That shit annoy you. So anyway, we're gonna wrap this one up. This show is going in the bag. Thank y'all for not going crazy at the mouth. I hope we can keep the green dollar sign on this. This is a good show. Shout out to everybody for coming. Thank you so much for donating. Shout out to everybody who supports the show.
Thanks.
Now, thank you so much, Latina. It's always a pleasure. Shout out to everybody who ever supported the show, now, past, present, and future tense. We got to get up out of here, but I appreciate all the donations.
I need that money.
But you guys have a great day. I'm going to take a nap, and then I'm going to get up. I think I got to make me I got some shrimp and some pasta. I'm going to make me some shrimp Alfredo and a little bit of salad for dinner. And I'm going to go to sleep first. I'm going to sleep on that. You guys have a great day. I'm going to take me a nap, and we are out of here, man.
Aspiring to be patriarchs like what white men have, that isn't freedom. That isn't going to help anybody. It's certainly not going to help black people.
It's done. It's done. It's done. It's done. None of these niggas have motion except for me. There has to be one real nigga left in America, in this damn country.